It's 10 after, we're already late. It's 10 after 6, so I want to call this meeting to order. This notice is posted in pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act. Notice is hereby given that the City Council of Nassau Bay will conduct a workshop. Again, this is a workshop on January 15, 2025 at 6 p.m. at City Council Chambers, 1800 Space Park Drive, Suite 200, Nassau Bay, Texas, 77058. So the meeting has been called to order. Roll call is we do have a slim quorum. Let the record show that Councilwoman Paula Tomasi, Councilman Chase Waterwall, and Councilwoman Haley Hewell are not present at this time. I do know that Councilman Waterwall should be here, as well as I believe we're trying to tie in Councilwoman Hewell. Councilwoman Tomasi will not be here. She is still in the hospital and regrets not being able to be here. So that's the roll call. Next is the citizens' comments. These are to hear all citizens' comments as at a reasonable hour. The City Council requests to speak with respect to the 3-minute time limit for individual comments and the 5-minute time limit for individuals speaking on behalf of the group. This is not a question and answer session. However, it is an opportunity to voice your thoughts with the City Council. Having said that, though, this is a workshop, and when we go into new business, we will not have the same formalities as City Council. There will be the ability to have back and forth between people in the chairs or not on council. With that, somebody who would like to speak?
Okay, I don't know if you can hear me, yes. So sorry, we thought you guys were starting at 7, so our parks guys, sorry about that. I know a lot of you told me you want to come up here and say a couple of words, so we'll go ahead and say our words, and then we're going to go in the back and do our parks meeting, because we planned this a month ago and we couldn't really get people to reschedule. So I thought I'd start out because I think this is primarily about me. I did move out of my old residence. I own 4 homes here in Nassau Bay, and I moved into another residence, so I am still a resident here of Nassau Bay. So if you do try to pass this ordinance, it doesn't apply to me, so I think it's kind of a waste of time. But I also don't agree with adding more rules and regulations. I did want to start out, especially since we can't enforce a lot of the ones we have. I'll go into that in a minute, but I wanted to say that the people that we have on the Parks Committee right now, they were all new when they came on. Everybody's new here. They've done a fantastic job. I think anybody that's up for reinstatement should be reinstated. We renovated every single park. So you guys have seen that, all the great work that we've done. We had the Moon Tree event in 2 weeks, and they're doing a fantastic job. So yeah, I just wanted to find out also, I think it's really weird the misplaced priority in this particular workshop when there's so many other workshops that could be done. For example, I am the treasurer of the Queens Court Homeowners Association. We have 64 homes there. 2 weeks ago, I was out there digging ditches and laying out asphalt on the roads because the storm drains need to be replaced back there. I brought it up on 3 different budget sessions for 3 years now, that the drains are not draining away from the houses into the storm drains because they're collapsed. I've had 3 different plumbers out there to say that, and we have, I think pretty soon you're going to start hearing from the residents here at the council meetings. And the mayor's doing something about it. Thank you, Mayor. I know you've been working on that, but I haven't heard the other 2 council members and will say anything about it as a priority. Instead, it seems like going after volunteers seems to be a priority. Instead, the houses are flooding there, and they file flooded claims, including myself, which makes our ISO rating go up. That seems to be like it should be a priority. Also, like I said, you can't enforce the ordinances that you have. You have debris over there behind the McDonald's and the Star Stop. There's an ordinance that says you have to have the potholes fixed and the parking lots fixed. The potholes and the parking, the road behind the McDonald's, that needs to be fixed. The abandoned vehicles behind the McDonald's. There should be part of the fire lanes need to be painted. Go and ride through the CVS, those fire lanes are not painted. Go there, over by even the Methodist doesn't have all their fire lanes painted. That's a safety issue. And then you also have the business registrations. When I first got on council, there was like 200 out of a couple thousand businesses in Nassau Bay that were registered. When Perry Henderson came on, we changed as a council from like $25 up to $125 a year. Perry had got all the businesses registered up to Upper Bay, and that was $50,000. That's up for renewal. And I didn't hear Tony talk about that Monday night. Talked about high grass, but not about how we could collect another $50,000 for this city that we could use to pay for some of this stuff. stuff. And he hadn't gone past Upper Bay. There's all that Methodist and all those other buildings down to Swamp Lagoon. And when I had looked it up on council, a lot of those were not registered businesses. Some of these businesses, when I had looked it up, were sexually oriented businesses. There was that crack pipe shop that tried to go in. I think these are kind of priorities. And then also I looked today, and there's 8 short-term rentals that are out there in apartments, including the Sapphire and Bay House. We just spent $75,000.
30 seconds.
$75,000 to pay off the Sapphire. Sarah Morton knows that there's black mold at the Sapphire, and they've talked here about black mold over at the Bay House. We're letting, if we gave a permit to the Sapphire to have a short-term rental, I can't believe that that would be allowed. And that's not a priority, to make sure that we're not luring people in from the outside and letting them be exposed to black mold. So I think that we need to think of rethinking our priorities. Instead of going after volunteers and people that are sacrificing their time and doing good, we should be looking at the things that really matter in Nassau Bay. And with that, I'll yield my time to the next person.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Laura Ford, 1911 Back Bay Court. I've written each time this issue has come up, but I'll go ahead and speak again. I respectfully request that you reject the proposed restrictions on volunteers and instead focus on encouraging community involvement, which has long been a cornerstone in our community. The proposed restrictions would disqualify homeowners who are away from their homes and displaced for work, military service, and any other reason from volunteering. Homeowners pay taxes, they've got a vested interest in our community. They want to see their property values rise, and they directly contribute to the city's success. I am deeply concerned that this proposal diverts attention from critical issues facing our city. Why is so much energy being spent on restricting volunteers instead of problems such as infrastructure, drainage, the widespread mold, unsafe living conditions in apartments, and unresolved code issues? These issues are far more impactful to our community's well-being than limiting who can volunteer to plant flowers, paint curbs, and plan events that bring the whole community together. Council has the ability to evaluate and select volunteers without imposing unnecessary restrictions. I urge you to please reject this proposal and instead focus on initiatives that will truly strengthen and improve our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Nancy Lynn, 2445 Baycrest Drive. I respectfully request that you reject this proposal also. If you look at the people sitting in this room over on the other side, you will see a very diverse group of individual citizens who have come together because of Michelle Weller. Not her personally, but because of the way she conducts and makes people welcome. You have people from every part of Nassau Bay. There is no uptown, midtown, downtown. It's all different groups. And we all work together. We've all got individual interests, and they've combined, and this city is shining because of you guys, because you approve of what the committee does. But look at how diverse, all over the city. It's not just a single area. It's not just a single group, subgroup coming in. It's diverse. They're all parts. That hasn't happened. I've lived here since what, 1977? I don't think it's ever been this diverse. And the people in this committee come, and some of them go because of kids' commitments, but they're there and they come into different aspects. It's really unique. And there are things in the city that you guys really need to focus your wonderful volunteer time on. Things that really affect all of us in an adverse way. This is positivity, okay? It's just people caring, working, making the city shine, at least on the surface, but deeper. Look at the individuals here. It's caring, it's pulling this city together. And you know exactly what I'm talking about and how we need to be pulled together. You know, a lot of y'all have come out enjoying this, and we appreciate it. But again, we need to be together. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
How are you all this evening? My name is Mike Merrick, I'm 706, Gal Brian. To be honest with you, I'm prepared to come up here and give a speech about another wasteful, I don't know what you want to call this, symposium. Let's figure out how we can cap volunteers wanting to do good things for the city. I came up here for Parks and Recreation. To be honest with you, it's kind of getting tiresome. It's the same group, it's the same people. Personal, it's vendettas. I don't know what you guys are gonna do when you finally drive Michelle Weller out of here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still gonna be a thorn in your side. I'm still here. I'm not leaving. I got a nice house. Why would I leave? Just get Paul and the crew to go over there and fix the light that the guy ran into last week. We'll take care of that. Paul said he would. We got bigger things in this city. Like drunk people driving around at 5 o'clock in the morning running in the street poles. Anybody on city council decide to bring that up and talk to Paul about that? Talk to anybody about that? No. We're worried about Michelle Weller. It's a joke. Having to look at the list of people who have applied for the Parks Committee. Never in the history of Nassau Bay have that many people applied to be on the Parks Committee. Didn't know it was such a coveted job. I think a couple of people in this room have all of a sudden been very active with their email list and their text list. They get out. It's the same crew that came after me and my family when we tried to do the parks plaque last year. Same people who did Oppo research on my son. The same people who had privileged information, who were spreading that information around in emails and text. Verbal, it's the same people. It's tired. It's tiresome. We've got better things to do in this neighborhood. There are people in this same room who have been kicked out of City Hall and council meetings because they want to act up. They want to pretend like they're some sort of expert on the situation at hand. We've got people who have run off with funds from the parks meetings, wanted to get back on the parks. And they didn't want to come to answer any questions about it, but they now want to get back on this board. What the hell is wrong with you folks? Can you not get together? Get it together. Look at these people here. They bust their ass every day. If you work half as hard in making this place a great place as you do with trying to tear it apart, we'd be a lot further ahead than we are now. Everything this Parks Committee has done, I've seen online all the crap that everybody's talked about. The moon trees, calling them twigs, bitching and moaning about the palm trees, bitching and moaning about the dog park. Why don't you come together and realize what we have here? It's a nice little place. Whether Michelle Weller's head of the Parks Committee, I'm not going anywhere. And I've just started. And I'm starting to get pissed off about all the little crap that's going on. And if you think you're going to hide behind your little text and your emails, people see them. I have friends too, and they get shown to me, okay? And so why don't you start making them public? And I can do that too. So my suggestion is stop.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Mike.
Hi, Gail Nelson, 18403 Kingstown Court. I don't know what all this negativity is all about. I've been keeping my head in the sand, I guess. But
Let her speak.
the thing about it is I don't see anybody trying to keep anybody from volunteering in this community. I've gotten a lot of volunteers outside of this community to come help us with some events for camping, like the Reindeer Fun Run and others. But I go back to our charter. You know, it talks about qualifications of members. If you're gonna run for mayor or city councilman or anything else, you have to be a resident of Nassau Bay. I don't care, I'm not out for Weller, I'm not out for any individual. I'm just saying, if if you're going to be named a chairperson of a committee and on a committee, you've got to be a resident. Every other city, Houston, League City, Pearland, Friendswood, Kemah, Taylor Lake Village, all these places, to get on to any of their committees, boards and committees, you have to be a resident there. Why would we elect to have someone who's not a resident of this community? Why would we have them chair a board, especially when they're recommending things to do in the community? I just don't get it. That's what I'm about, is if you're gonna have people on the committee, other people from other cities can come in and volunteer. They've done it all the time. Who is stopping them? We've got a peninsula cleanup getting ready to happen. We have beautification day. We have so many events here in this community where we get other people from neighboring communities to come in and volunteer. Why would that stop? I don't understand it. But I just think that they need to be a resident of our community if they're going to be in that position. Thanks.
Anybody else?
This is like a name and address situation. Sorry,
It is.
I wasn't paying attention. Sarah Plunkett, 18639, Turks Money. Okay. So I don't know if this is a weird turn of events. I didn't think it was a council meeting where we were talking about all the things. I thought we were just here to talk about rules for committees. I understand that we have bigger problems. I understand that we have mold and we have people running into my post, it sounds like, and neighbors, assaulting neighbors. I'm sure there's problems all over town. But that's not what we're here for, right? We're here to talk about committees, and a common sense rule I think that we've had and we do have is that you should be a resident of Nassau Bay if you're going to sit on a committee. That doesn't mean that you can't volunteer. It doesn't mean that you can't participate in events. I think most people in town want as many people to participate in all of the events and committees as possible. And I'm not privileged enough to have the list of applicants, but it sounds like we have a lot of people in town who want to be on committees. And I know that the term limit thing's a relatively new rule in town, but we have committees right now that have like half of their people who are overturned by about 3 months, which is more than 10% of their sitting term. So like, I understand that we have rules and we're not necessarily abiding by all of the rules, and it's hard to keep track of the rules that we have, but I thought that's why we had code enforcement and things like that for some of those other rules that were mentioned. But these things just seem to make sense to me. Be a resident, do your term, let somebody else take a turn if they want to take a turn. Turn taking is something we're taught pretty early in life, so I don't really see what the problem is, but that's just me.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Kimberly Clark from the committee is, Kimberly Clark from the Perks Committee is not able to make it, and she wrote in. She asked if somebody could read her letter if she didn't make it here in time. Am I allowed to talk twice, or does somebody else from the committee?
This is for Kim Clark. If we either have Maria read it, but I don't believe there's any issue with reading.
Okay. Dear Mayor Johnson and City Council, I am reaching out in regard to the proposed residency amendment to the Nassau Bay City Charter. Being new to this community last year, I was overwhelmed by the spirit of inclusion my family has received. Sorry, I didn't read this before. I've been given many opportunities to serve and contribute to Nassau Bay through the Garden Club, volunteering with Candy, and serving with the Parks and Recreation Committee. I believe the proposed amendment also should reflect Nassau Bay's inclusive attitude. Our city is looking for qualified and effective volunteers. As long as an individual is invested in our city through home ownership or residency, that individual should be considered a candidate for appointed and elected positions. There are safeguards of nominations, voting by the community or community representatives to ensure Nassau Bay citizens have oversight of the council and committees. From my perspective, as part of Keep Nassau Bay Beautiful, and working in conjunction with the Parks and Recreation Committee, I have been impressed with the significant positive impact the Parks and Recreation Committee has brought to this city. I'm grateful to be an active participant in their efforts. Paddle events with Camp Hope and resident Jim Stoa, collaborating with the Garden Club to provide flowers for our parks and revitalize NASA's significant impact to this city are just a few accomplishments they have achieved since I have been involved. The current committee works well together and has established a momentum which is working to provide fantastic results for residents of Nassau Bay. I respectfully request you extend terms of those individuals who are up for renewal. Best regards, Kimberly Clark. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, good evening. Spencer Carvall, 1443 Pirates Cove. A couple of topics here that I want to cover. First off is expired terms. No reason to wait when there are residents within the community who have submitted applications to join committees. I don't understand why we are not allowing others to join any committee whatsoever once their terms have expired. I know there has been some conversation about extending the term limits until a disclosed date of time. So I don't understand why that is even a discussion. If it's not, if it's a reason of projects, there will always be projects going on. The design of the term limits is that not all terms are up at the same time. So when some of the committee members leave and new members join, the existing members get the new members up to speed on the projects. So it's not a matter of the projects, it's a matter of the new people coming in, the existing ones get them up to the projects, and they go from there. That's how it works. So projects is not a reason for extending terms in my book. Boards and committee members who have terms that have expired are required to renew their application with council with no guaranteed renewal, is my understanding. So using parks and recreation as an example, according to the City of Nassau Bay website, there are currently 5 seats which have expired, one being the chairman. Residency, talking about that as a topic. We currently have a non-resident as chairman of Parks and Recreation, which we have documentation in the form of voter registration filed in Galveston County. This information has been provided not only to the mayor but other council.
This is not true. Why is it
Hang on. We are not going to have.
Incorrect.
We are not going to have
Your
arguments.
face is turning red.
Yeah.
Seriously. Hey, Sarah, that means you too.
Okay.
Stop. Everybody stop. Let them speak. Like I said before, let them speak.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. From my understanding, this information was a voter registration filed in the city of, or excuse me, the county of Galveston, and has been provided to the mayor as well as other council members. This raises the question: why would we have a non-resident serve on one of our boards and committees when we have current residents wanting to serve with active applications? Why would we allow a non-resident, regardless of whether they own rental properties or not, to serve over the residents who drive our city streets day in and day out? Treatment of volunteers and citizens. While I respect that some of the volunteers' experience with Parks and Recreation have been positive, mine has not been. I was actually, over the Christmas holiday, asked to not attend a city-sponsored event from Parks. And that was put in writing from Michelle Weller, and I was told not to attend. So there's exclusion here with a taxpayer event. Did not appreciate that, and then when I tried to attend, everything was changed. The time was changed. I had a conversation with the mayor. The mayor agreed with me that that should not have happened. My solution to it was that I called for the chair of Parks and Recreation to be suspended until this workshop had been completed and a decision had been made.
So that's good. Trying to keep everybody the same.
Understood. And a decision had been made on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Did you go a second time?
You cannot.
And we have to
Unless
be in
you're
our
reading
meeting when
somebody
the
else.
back and forth gets to happen, so we don't get to defend
We can
ourselves.
close our, we cannot have
No,
our.
but this is,
meetings.
guys, let me just do, this is not, I read before, this is for citizens to address council.
Yeah, but there's
This
supposed
is
to be a back
no,
and
this is
forth.
not a give and take going back and
I
forth.
thought you said later there's a back and forth.
That'll be when we do the things for the workshop, I agree, but right now, he has a right, everybody has a right to be able to say 3 minutes, peaceful.
Bill, I've got a serious question, and whether you can answer it or not, I don't know, how did Roscoe Lee stand apart from 27?
I don't, right now, I'm not gonna go there. I really wanna move forward with the purpose that we're here. Because I think a lot of the rules and things like that will be, apparent. And there's certain things that I heard here that once we get into the session that I wanna address, and that's why I want to move on. So if there's anybody else who wants to talk, I'm gonna go, does anybody else wanna speak for 3 minutes? Then going once, going twice, going 3 times, public hearing is closed.
Can somebody let us into the conference room? And so what I'd like to say is that they did find voter registration laws, so I do have voter registration in the city of Nassau Bay. I can prove that. And since I can't talk in the back and forth here, and then the reason why people excluded is because they're older children, and I didn't want adults competing with children for the hearing, just like we don't want adults competing with their children in the youth group.
I had my nephew with me, so.
All right, I want to move to new business. And this is the council discussion and input regarding policies, procedures, terms of office for boards and commissions. And there's one thing I want to start this off with, because this was actually the original intent of wanting to put down some rules. And this actually initiated from the city secretary's position. So from that standpoint, the issue is the unexpired terms have been created because this council made a point in the drive for transparency and visibility that we did not want to have any position filled that had not been published in the Compass Rose, put on the website, and put on the Facebook, and that there would be no consideration for a position unless that has occurred. And one of the things we found, in all good intentions, is that we created a hailstorm of bureaucratic problems with the city secretary. She came to this council and said she's got a problem trying to keep up with a whole amount of publications, things like that, which was causing us to get behind, which was the answer to your question, which is we should just do unexpired things and we have applicants, but we haven't published everything in the rules. And 2 years ago, this council made a very, very determined, decision that we were no longer going to do backroom stuff. We were no longer going to do that. There was no application that was going to be reviewed unless those reporting and publication requirements have been set. So this whole thing started because she actually came to council and wanted us to consider taking from all these things happening at various times of the year and having to do all at once. We suggested maybe July, didn't know, we hadn't had a talk this, so that we only had to, for the whatever staggered term was unexpired, that we would be able to do it once and once only, and not have her completely inundated with all the ways in which to do that. So the reason we're behind is because of that. And quite honestly, I'll be happy to stand in front of voters to say we sided on transparency and visibility rather than the kicking people off and having it viewed as being a backroom decision. Because I've been called everything under the names prior to that, and I'm tired of it. And I wanted to make sure we did that, and that was important. I would be happy to
So, yeah, I asked a while ago if we could post those things on the Facebook, I mean, not the Facebook, but the website, like if we could post people's terms and like who's on committees and things like that, and you told me that the website was kind of trash, in a
Well,
nice
no.
way. You said that's
No,
what
I just-
that's why it was hard to
It's
navigate.
not up to date.
Right,
Correct.
it's not up to date, but like, I really think we need those things
Oh,
posted.
I
You know, like,
agree.
even
So-
if the website
So
is
no,
not
no,
ideal.
nobody disagrees with that. The question is, it's a resource to the city secretary's position. And quite honestly, and I'm gonna just say this, the people who were pushing for this, and a lot of people in this room was really pushing for that,
Right.
right? We created her problem. So now to sit here and talk about, how all these things here, when we created this problem for her, I'd rather solve the problem and get it set, because I think what she says is actually there, and just fix it, and then we'll have, we'll kill two birds with one stone. At least that's my primary objective for this meeting here. I know there's some other ones, we'll get to that, but this kind of have gotten lost, because I feel really bad to people who, like I'll say Cindy DeWeese, bless her heart. She is staying on. There's other people who are staying on. They said until we fulfill our publishing requirements, that they will stay in those expired terms, just to be a service to things, but they have no obligation to do that. So they're actually doing that to the benefit of the city, and I don't think we should be critical of that, right? And I don't think we should be critical that we've got to solve a problem that we've created and get it done. So in my mind, that's number one, okay? The other one is, I think there's been a whole lot of discussion around, what does it mean to be a resident here? And I think we need to get down to that. And I want to, Sarah, that was a lot of what you were pushing with some of the things, and happy to, talk that through here and have questions. I have some ideas about that. I know others do too. So there's things along that line. And then if there's any other rules that we want to have or anything else. I didn't get any. Where'd it come from? Do we have food?
Yeah.
Yes. What is it?
Maria, what, you remember?
It's La Madeleine
Sandwiches?
sandwiches, yes.
So we have a 2-minute break. If people are hungry, grab a sandwich.
I'm sure I'm hungry after all that.
And there's sweet tea and leftover.
What was up there?
I don't really know. Nielsen's doing better, but I'm not really sure.
I could use a water.
There's water.
Thank you.
Wishful thinking. Yeah, get you attendance. You don't want to get your.
Oh, that would have been nice.
Yes, that would have been.
So, French dip. Okay.
Huh?
Like a salad.
French dip. What is this? Okay.
Yeah, there are.
And the answer is, Maria?
Sorry, I use a code that they sent, but it's not letting me log in there, so I'm checking my phone. It's really hard to get the request.
I know, that's another reason I want to update our equipment. It should be simple. I mean, two laptops can do it one another in 30 seconds.
But you know, like even our website and stuff, all cities' websites are, it's hard to find anything on them.
No question. No question.
They're hard to navigate. I mean, I was looking at a bunch of like, it's like haphazard.
At one time, we were the #1 website. That was when Mike Mag, took real, heavy involvement. And that's his job. That's what he does. He's a, video marketing executive. Yeah, so I mean, that's what he does. And really what, between him and, was it Joe, I forget, Ferguson? Who was right there?
That name sounds familiar.
They were the two, I believe, I could be wrong, I don't want to. That once they stopped being involved, things kind of just went on autopilot to where, we couldn't even sustain the channel 16, I think it was, or whatever, Comcast gave us, Verizon gave us. So, and our website has not changed since basically.
You just need people who are in that industry.
Yeah. Well, today's the websites are dynamic. I mean, they're they used to be, when they first started with the internet, just informational, but now they're dynamic. It's amazing.
The amount of security you have to have on those.
Yeah, I remember. I do remember when we had during COVID where we had the guy who used to hack in and write some pretty bad stuff on, which was then published as part of our video streaming. He had this like witches, lab, and he just wrote the most horrendous stuff. So, and we'd have to shut it down. So that's my biggest thing is because this is a public record. It needs to be secure. It needs to be secure.
Yeah, 15 feet there.
No, I thought it was going to be down. I thought it was going to be down in a big park, not up here. I've heard a variety of different things. I really don't know until I.
I think something small like something.
Anything? I'd love to just get on the phone, but I don't think the governor allows us to do that.
We are.
Carrie's on. But it's the call is
She watched the live stream.
Yeah.
I think there's a slight delay though.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to log in. Yeah, I believe we need to be able to see her. Is the law for audio visual. We cannot take a conference call, but if we see her visually, as long as we have a quorum, she can be allowed to. Is she gonna be able to hear also?
Yeah.
You gotta talk into that.
I don't know.
Just to me, it's weird to have one random astronaut statue when there's not that big of a.
Yeah, we do.
Does it have to
Over there.
I don't.
They're never just sitting there
Can
to
she talk to
visualize the weather.
I don't know. I don't know the system at all.
Can she use Facebook Live? Can she? Is there a way to do it?
The accusations
I don't know.
apply if you don't want to put.
But it's also got to be through,
I mean, you guys can think what you want.
Something like that.
yeah.
I know.
I don't know. Is that Wi-Fi?
I think there might be another one.
Is it doing it by Wi-Fi? Or Bluetooth? Yeah, it's, well, that's what, that's a better way of saying it. I'm thinking Wi-Fi or Bluetooth wireless.
I have this Zoom account, do you wanna use that?
You have to ask her if we can.
I wouldn't think so, but.
I don't think so either. I think it's gotta be
Before
through.
with them, and he was like,
What do you come up with, Zoom account, business Zoom account, can you use that?
Your life, I mean, we can bring all our space people in. It's.
Can you use that for this?
He's gonna try to sign it.
Like,
They
I
only
thought
give it-
he's somewhere here. Space flying.
I just think at some point we gotta give up the ghost. I hate to say that. Right.
That's no strength of good time. Charge water like that.
Different rooms and all, like,
What's that?
There should be a link regardless if you are coming.
Is she wearing like I'm saying, you are.
Here in the game.
Because they want to be.
No, they don't.
There's just be a link.
All they do is they're imaging.
Just in case.
You can tell who's on the team. You can see the uniforms because all the.
Right, that makes sense.
So you have to have this.
It'll be a little confusing.
Oh, so Zoom isn't the question. Okay, gotcha.
And it's probably a dead battery there, Chief. It doesn't matter. It only takes a little bit for me. I don't know. I'm not even. Hey guys, I mean, I hate to say it, but unless there's something you think you're imminent, we may have to give up the ghost.
She might just be near here, I don't know. How long did you say?
Zoom isn't the question.
I don't know.
Logging
You wanna
into
call her since we're?
Oh, logging into email.
Really?
All of that. Wait, what's this? How's that? Did you ever hear that?
You know, something like
plus.
You know?
I'm sorry.
I really want to get that first one going.
Sorry,
I do
I'm sorry.
I do want to get
Just
Maria
kidding.
out of
I kid.
her predicament.
All right. Everyone can take a joke.
I guess there's no changing Friday night venue. So we're just gonna add this like going forward, there should be a link regardless of. I was gonna say, is it gonna be really like a while?
What's the answer, guys?
Okay, I kid you not.
I don't really know what you're doing.
No, I kid you not. I can't. Well,
They're there. They're getting close.
You're on the rock side.
Yeah.
I haven't been watching.
That would be close. Start eating.
Like a Christmas dinner thing.
Yeah, it wasn't, they're for the previous month, so we would not meeting maybe in January, it's just December 1st, December 31st. Yeah. That's what we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are just,
Which one was that?
that's not all calls with the guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot more.
Yeah, no, I saw the one before that, so you're not.
It's something.
That was last June. For me, and you were like, yeah, it was like your September or something like that.
Read case report, it doesn't show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just not sorry yet.
Talking to me.
No,
You know, like, it's like, I didn't go, I'm gonna hire a child, but like, I
See, I
can
think
buy
it's like a tractor stop, it doesn't generate a.
my company lives there,
It doesn't end up in
sounded like that. I asked it, like, is it?
They obviously, you're in a house somewhere.
Are you going to? Good for you. Nice.
So sometimes. More often.
Are you going as a family or you guys just yourself? Yeah. Oil stomping grounds. Just realize there's hotels there.
No, are you kidding?
I got my son, and then I'm going to Sunday.
Good for you. And Sarah doesn't want to go to that. I think she'd like, talk about getting dressed up and swanky.
No, just doesn't want to go.
She doesn't want to go.
Yeah, that works.
But no, that's important. But yeah, I just reached out to that.
And those military balls, you know, because everybody's gonna be dressed out.
Yeah,
Whatever you call it.
Okay, report back.
Oh, absolutely. We'll take those videos.
Please do,
Wait, so you leave when? Saturday?
Saturday morning.
because usually the ladies are really decked
Come back
out.
Tuesday.
Everybody's in uniform.
Oh, yeah.
It's,
But no, I can't wait to get the little, really hope
guys, how's it going? I'm gonna have to intervene here. If you can't do it, we can't do it.
But now we're not.
You know, you can email.
I just went down to see like the application. So I kind of went right around the national mall. And it's just.
Well, we can do that to a certain,
Did it work?
up to a certain level of.
Can you get any of the audio for the
Video, yeah. Yep, it's not an integrated system. So have we told her?
We just use one of our phones.
You want me to tell her?
Or put her on speakerphone?
I don't think we're allowed to. Because I believe the whole thing through COVID, you have to have an audio visual person.
Can you do FaceTime?
So I don't know. I don't know what the detail of what the law allows or doesn't allow, but I do know that, you know, through your government facilities is that you're supposed to have an audio visual of somebody, and they're only allowed to be able to be a part of the discussion or count as a vote if there's a physical quorum. So there had to be at least 4 of us. There is, so we could do it. We could bring her
You
in.
could text her the link to be onto Zoom, because you're on Zoom. It was the email, her email she couldn't get on.
Yeah, if you text it to her, she should be able to access it. And if she has the app, she can do it on her phone.
Yeah, she could. And you'd have the camera on her phone.
Well, we've talked to Paula before on them.
I mean, I don't want to be a horse's patoot here. I just, as long as we can get an audio visual, because I don't want somebody to come in and say we violated the law or
As
whatever.
long as there is no action taken.
Well, we don't have the ability to take action.
Yeah, we don't.
There's no action. It's on.
This is a workshop. Yep.
Which is why everyone got all hot and heavy. We can't, all we're doing is talking tonight. We can't actually do anything.
Well, no, but the
We can come up with
output of
ideas,
this,
voice.
the output of
Yes.
this is to go to Dick
We're
Grant,
gonna talk, yes,
right? I mean,
to
that's
come up with a plan.
correct. Yes.
people showed up?
People that show up.
Yeah, when I actually remember 25 years ago, we allowed to have somebody call in on a conference call. You couldn't do anything video. As long as you identified yourself and things like that, the people recognized your voice, it was allowed. COVID's changed all those rules.
Isn't that the truth?
It changed all those rules. It was very lax, and then it got, depending on state, it's gotten highly restrictive to not restrictive. It's kind of wherever. It is.
You have her cell phone number?
Yeah.
Text her the link. You can just text
You
it.
can text it to her.
Can you?
She should be able to do it and access it from her phone.
I mean, it's now past 7 o'clock. We gotta move on. Either we can or can't.
She was just having a
Sorry.
problem accessing her email.
Anyway, she's actually on her way now, right? Oh no, that's Chase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I texted her asking if she had an ETA and she's not responding, so I think she's probably just totally hogged now.
I will. I'm just letting her know. Okay. I just let her know. You're gonna keep trying though, right? Then I'm gonna come out of this recess. It's 7:04, and we're gonna continue the discussion on the workshop. If it's okay with y'all, can we address the very first one that I talked about, which is to try to simplify the system so we don't have publication and publishing and time frames, because it takes a good 2-3 months for that to happen in order to be, delinquent on filling unexpired terms. I really believe the suggestion coming from Maria was to have it in, continue to have the staggers. We're not talking about having it there, but having it done in 1 month. And the recommendation, I'll say it that way, the recommendation would be to have the policy be for committee terms to expire June 30th or somewhere there, I don't know, and be viable, or really right after that, would be excuse me, I misspoke, it'd be right after city council, the first city council, meeting after people have been sat for an election, so it'd be that July council meeting would be when terms would expire and new volunteers or re-up would take place. But the purpose behind July was that we have an election where we're gonna find out, a candidate will become a council member or mayor, and they will then be sat in June, so those people would have the ability to participate in the next year of volunteers that would be consistent with potentially those candidates and what they want to do. That's kind of how our federal government works. That's kind of how our state government works. It gives a acknowledgement that elections are meant to be able to be the will of the people, so you should have volunteers working there, which is why July and that thing was floated as the most reasonable. That means we would set up a tickle around April to make sure we do all our proper things so that everyone would be able to get knowledge of that, and it would become part of the final part of the election, which would be the seating of volunteers for the next year. And I believe that's a really great idea. It gets Maria out of having to publish every month and everything and doing the stuff, making sure all the applications, doing the things like that. It really takes a whole bureaucracy that we've created for her out and only gets done once a year. And unless people think that that's not a good idea, maybe by unanimous consent, or if people have an objection, let's talk about it. But I think I'd like to at least start there as one of the first rules that we do to take a problem that we've created for staff off staff, and I think actually align it. That would mean those volunteers would be most effective after an election. Personal opinion.
I really like the idea. One thing I would say, the caveat would be with the exception of any newly created committees that would come out of a council meeting, for example, community engagement, maritime committee, they obviously would have applications posted prior to. So.
But I think from now on, and I would even include the maritime, we're going to be meeting here the first time tomorrow, but they would be included, so we would have to re-up or seat somebody else for a term that expires. So I think we by this ordinance, we're basically changing the dates for all the committees to.
Is that amending the ordinance that we already have in place?
I don't think it addresses it. I mean, maybe it is. Counselors, you guys know better. But I don't believe we addressed it in that. I think that's probably the most appropriate place to put it.
We talk about terms. We talk about the length of the terms, and we talk about.
So we grandfathered when those terms, per her spreadsheet, we kept when the terms expired the same. We didn't touch that part of it.
Right.
And that was our mistake, if you ask me. I think we should have. We did not realize the work effort here.
If we do this, what do we do about the people that have said that they're not going to continue on in their position?
If somebody resigns, right, and of all the things here, just so people feel, I've only had like one resignation. There's everybody else that says, we understand the dilemma, we'll hold over. But if somebody resigns, I think that's like any other thing. We immediately do our publication and we fill those positions.
Maria, do you need those papers that you have over there? Should I come? Do you want me to pass them out for you?
So these are the.
Sorry, I saw a stack of stuff over there. I thought we should probably have them.
Terms expiring, and the ones that have
The big one here, just so everybody is, when it was discovered that the EDC couldn't be on there, we had people resign from other committees. That's the only one that I'm aware of, where there's a formal resignation.
Well, and remember that committee, so that committee ordinance we passed does not apply to a number of.
The required ones.
Right, a number of the boards that are like created by state law and have their own
And I would move that, I don't know why we can't, say and have that done where we align it with one thing for her purposes. I mean.
No, I think if you do that, then I think what you're saying is a separate ordinance because.
It may be.
Because if we did it in that same ordinance, then we wouldn't be able to carve out exceptions.
Fair enough.
But aren't some of those, I don't know the exact terms.
So to me, that's a question to Dick Craig.
Like EDC might have defined its bylaws when the terms expire. I don't know.
I don't know. So I mean, to me, but to me, this is, and I would actually proffer this, is I think we should establish what we want it to be and then work to that. I mean, if we believe this is the right way to manage our committees and set policies, we should do that and then drive it through. And if we have to get a vote on the EDC or whatever like that to be able to do that, I don't think that they're going to object. I really don't.
I'm looking at the EC bylaws. Go ahead.
Say that we have regulatory boards and then we have advisory boards. And they do have different requirements for holding those positions and being elected to those positions. But the renewal of the terms can still fall at the same time.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I'm just wondering, I was reading the EC bylaws to make sure that it didn't say like in May of every year or whatever.
I mean, my bet is it probably does. Because otherwise, how did it get established? Unless it just, you know, unless it's on that spreadsheet that has been what's been.
Like we do with our charter review, can they review their bylaws?
Pardon me?
Can the committees review their bylaws that are?
You could put it in the charter that,
Well,
I mean,
EDC can renew their,
yeah.
they have
EDC can look at their own
They
bylaws.
have 2-year terms.
Yeah, but does it stay, is it prescriptive as to when they start and end? I don't think it is. I think it's, I would hope that would be the case. I mean, I know it was prescriptive as 2-year terms and I think the term limits.
It says directors shall be appointed by the city council for 2-year terms of office.
Yeah.
The person shall be appointed director.
So that means it's to us.
Every 2 years.
It says it's to us.
So it would be the same thing because they have
Yeah.
staggering terms, so every year they would come up with a
Yeah, so I still,
Well, that's just EDC,
So
so
let
I don't
me-
know about the other stuff.
let me mention some, at least this is where I'm at, guys. I'm just putting the spaghetti that sticks on the wall. I believe the staggered system where you go 3-4, 3-4 on a, for a 7-member thing is a very, very valuable, policy because it allows for continuity. Because you don't want to have everybody and their grandmother replaced, every year, so to speak, because then, 2 years, you're just getting into the flow of things, and there'll just be no continuity. So I would not support having the stagger change. I just want the stagger to start right after the meeting in July for city council to be able to appoint and have those open positions at that time.
Which makes sense for the ones that have to be city council members anyways.
Correct.
A certain percentage. of
Even more so,
Yeah.
correct. But I think that works.
So those are the ones we typically, I know, have at least changed, because we say, hey, because we already have a flag in the system, we know. that
We
we can
do,
change it, yeah.
we do. But that would allow that to happen the very first month after being sworn in.
I think it'll also help meeting minutes.
Yeah.
Everyone knows where to look for the meeting minutes on when we re-up these, because I still don't know that this is even accurate.
Yep.
I feel like we updated some of these, and it just never got recorded in what you have.
I went back a little bit,
Okay, you did, okay.
yeah. quite a bit.
She's gotten a lot of people, I've looked at it and I said, I think they're right.
Okay.
But I'm not the keeper. They look right.
Okay.
But again, this would clarify all that.
Yeah.
It would absolutely make it simple. Once a year, we would do the stagger, odd years of the calendar year would be for, the odd terms, and the even one would be for the even terms. Just like on council, it's odd for 1, 3, and 5, and even for mayor 2, 4, 6.
So you're proposing to extend all of these people that have expired to expire in July? That's what you
I
would.
think that would make it simple.
Versus
I
like
mean, I haven't gone there
replacing
yet.
them and then saying, hey, by the way, you're serving 2.5 years.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty hard to get people to just come in for 2.5 months, 3 months.
No, I'm saying like,
No.
you say, you start now, you start, and then you're like, okay, but just letting you know that the way we're doing it now is July of 2027, you would be
Yeah,
up again. So you would serve 2.5. The next group would serve 2.5.
yeah, fair enough.
You know what I mean? So it's either like replace them now and say, you're gonna serve 2.5 terms because now we're doing July renewals, or you say, what you're proposing is
Just
keep
start in
everybody
July.
in there. I'm
Yeah.
just worried because I don't think that a lot of the people have reapplied. So,
And I still think this is up to date, I'm not to be, I just, and I don't know, we're not gonna hash this out in this meeting, but when are we gonna be able to bless what we see here?
So
You know
what
what I'm saying? That's a
I
whole
mean,
nother-
I think that's
whole nother job.
that's something we have to
Yeah.
probably be
Draw the line in the
as
sand
part
and
of,
say, this is
part of the
what it is.
workshop, this is it, right? So,
Could reappoint to unexpired terms, which they are, the position members are expired, but it's really, the term starts again for 2 years. So if you appoint it to the boards that are expired now, they would be coming into an unexpired term that would expire in 2027.
I mean,
So you're saying leave people in expired positions?
No.
Oh,
Well,
I'm just waiting.
if council.
so I believe there needs to be a work effort, and we need to know definitively whether somebody is saying, not only my time's done and I don't want to re-up. I mean, that's.
I mean, I thought that's what this sheet is, but I don't know, because these are the people that have responded, I'm assuming.
It says on there, yes or no.
But
So if it says no, does that mean you haven't heard from them, or they
That's
said
right. They did
no?
not apply, and here's a list of all the applications, because I missed it.
I think we really need to, because I'm gonna tell you here is, and I'm just gonna say personal experience. You know, we went through where people didn't re-up, and this council did stuff where we didn't have all the publications. People got sad, and people were really upset because they really wanted to go forward. Nobody contacted them. And it became emotional. And I don't want it to be like the citizens that here, I think, you know, and then the one I'll even mention is Glenn Pouchet. It's Glenn, you know, and Glenn's right. And we have a very poor policy that nobody communicates. So I would really like to know definitively that people say they don't want to, because I think we should give deference to those who want to re-up, who've been already assigned, and deal with those who, there, unless council on July decides to do something different.
Oh.
I did send out those letters to everyone,
Yep.
and you did advertise.
It's like, what level of reach out do we need to do? Like, I mean, knock on doors? I mean,
Well, we should probably do a phone call.
Concerted effort.
yeah.
I think we should do a phone call.
Maria, did you call them in addition to like,
No.
email them?
Emails.
So just email.
Compass Rose.
Compass Rose and email.
Yep.
Okay.
Also, on the
We-
website.
We just have, our process here with replacing people or doing stuff is just bad, with all the good intentions. It's bad. And I want to make sure that, you know, again, is if somebody is in a position who wants to, then there should be deference given to those people unless they are wanting to do something different than the council people coming in, and they have every right to change that. And that's what elections are for. That's why it's in July. But just because I know there's other issues, we're gonna get to them. But at least can I put that to bed, is that we think our policy should be the
Those are not our boards.
city council meeting in July should be where terms expire, so that that city council meeting has the ability to use that time frame and those positions that are expired and be able to fulfill those and do those across all committees.
I like that idea because I think it'll give us a timeline, because the other complaint we have is people don't know when's the deadline.
When's
Is it
the
someone
deadline?
slides
Correct.
one in right before you do? So we can publish a deadline for applications, that way we don't have last minute, just like we got 14 last minute, 6 last minute emails today, the last minute things.
Always
Really,
happen.
yeah. And so that way there's I think a published timeline is gonna be helpful for that.
That's just.
I just want to make sure we we complete certain topics.
I get that the timeline differences is infuriating, and I imagine for Maria, it's I wouldn't want to deal with it, I understand. I mean, from a personal standpoint, I don't know if I'll be here in July, so it removes the possibility of Chase and I and Paula of having any say, really, in who gets to be on these committees, which, you know, we were elected to do, so, it's just, so from that standpoint, I'm like, you know, why don't we fill the vacancies that are vacant with people that have applied and shown interest, now, and say your term is 2.5 years. Now, but like I said, I do understand, I'm not trying to argue that the July thing doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't. But I just have a, you know.
So I mean, I guess one of the things I'm trying to do, I believe there's consensus to do that. I see other people, I don't want to put things, they're shaking their heads. What we do and how we get to there may be the next topic. But I believe, if I'm hearing, that at least that should be the objective.
Yeah, we need to nail down where there really are vacancies.
I do, I agree with that.
And what to do with the vacancies if, once you make the phone calls, if there are more vacancies, what do you do in the interim between now and July?
Correct.
Do you fill them? Do you not? Or will they be extended for 2 and
So let's do the easy one. If there is.
In March, we fill how much? Maybe in March we just fill and say, all right, you're serving your 2 years, and your term will expire July 27th.
That would be, I mean, the two
Those
easiest
true
things. The easiest things to do is one of two things, and I'm actually don't have a dog in the hunt either way. Is either to say, hey, let's do the effort, let's be able to find those, and those that are bona fide open, either somebody truly has resigned, they don't want to do their term, and we get somebody who is going to want to do it, you know, because it's only going to be for 3 months, right, or whatever it is. You know, March would be, you know, March, April, May, June, you know, at most 4 months, and just say we seek those people, and they do that, or you just say, you know, grandfather to July and do it all in July. I mean, those are the two. I mean, I'm 6-1 way.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And is there
other.
any one committee that we had too heartburn over that we're going to say, okay, someone should be in here for 3 months, or we care whether they're in here for 2 years and 3 months? Like, let's pick our battles, and what do we, you know, I guess hone in on what's the, you know, and to your point, it's 6 dozen or half a dozen, whatever. It just, I'm indifferent, but then you also have whatever council's coming in July, they don't have to, you know, say on this person that's been here for 3 months. You know, we have bigger fish to fry, so I'm kind of indifferent on that.
I mean, it's a one-time fix, so I mean, it's,
yeah,
we got to do it.
It's only 5 months.
To me, is whether we do it in March or do it in July.
And we're doing it on the front end.
I do
remember it on the back end in 2 years.
I will say this, and because she doesn't like to speak up, so I'm a little bit being a champion for her. And you've got an election you're going to run. So we're talking about doing all this work when an election's going to come up, and she's the one who's got to be the one running the election and doing stuff like that. So we're talking about stacking and racking her responsibilities in this time frame now. And you know, that if there's one reason why I'd say just wait to wait till July is I want to protect Maria. That's the only reason.
Is there any harm? Is there any negative to waiting to July with the current people? Is there any?
I think that's the point, is that there will be another election.
Right,
So there will be a new
right.
round of people. I
So-
think that's the negative for some people, and it's a
I
positive.
personally hope there's not going to be an election.
Well, true. But that also means that if there's another election,
Because that means you get a lot of extra time
Only
to
for
do
Chief
some of this
Sarah
other
Cola,
stuff.
it's a negative. For the rest of the
Well,
broad.
I
and
know.
all of the people voted for him, presumably.
Yeah, but then if they don't get reelected, then there's not a majority.
I guess can we just
Right, so that's-
Right.
So, I guess to answer your question, for some people, yes, and for some people, no.
If council just decides to review the applications and decide or have a consensus on which, applicants, if you want to allow new members to serve on these expired terms, that's a decision that.
We said that was one of the two options.
One of the things that we should, I guess, decide, tonight. And then secondly, the other thing would be to decide on either renewing those that want to serve, if you want to continue to serve until it would be 2027. If you renew the expired terms of the current members, you could do that. That would not be hard.
That's the
to do.
third option, I guess you'd say. I'm not as hip on that one, because
I
want
think
to
it would
stay.
be more work to appoint people for 3 months
I
and
do
then
too.
have to do appointments again.
Yeah, I
So
do too.
it would be better to just kind of nail down whether you want to open up those expired positions to those that have applied and reconsider the applicants that reapplied, or the new applicants, and then council just make that decision at least.
Would it create too much heartburn? Is that if we task, Maria, just to say, let's make sure there are no vacant, that there truly, if we call a meeting and people aren't gonna show, that's a problem. That's a core problem. So
That's called special events committee.
Yeah.
Nobody, it is. We already have that problem.
But I guess what I'm saying is then we should fill those positions on special events committee.
Nobody will join special events. So you guys talk about volunteers, go get your volunteers to join special events.
We're on special.
I know.
Yeah.
There's nobody that wants to be on special events, nobody.
Well, I want to
So-
pivot on something else with regard.
Well, let me say it this way. We should act on any applicant for special events that we have.
Okay, I think there were 2 in there, and they were
Right?
people who just checked.
If we have bona fide, public, we didn't do a lot of publications and things like that to do that. But once we've satisfied those things, for true just holes, I think you fill. If you've got people who are in those positions and looking at that and doing it across the whole slate, I would think in the work effort, I would prefer just waiting to July and make sure everybody understands July and stick it.
The main ones would be that have more of an impact would be the regulatory committees, which is, or boards and commissions, which is your, Nassau Management District, TDC.
But if we set up a ordinance like Sarah was suggesting, that would say would be a matter that we're changing their terms, then we wouldn't have that problem.
I think
Those are the only boards that would cause an impact for, as far as the city not having a
But if what we think is true is that it's the city's responsibility, they just represent, like we said with the EDC, 2-year terms for 4 years. It doesn't say when, that we then intervene and say when. And that those terms for everybody who's sitting there would be, for whichever ones end in 4, that they would now end in, July, whatever the city council meeting is in July.
Well, you'll
The day
recall at the
before.
committee meeting we had where we went through the list painstakingly, remember? I don't know, it was like
A year ago.
Yeah. We kind of extended people in that meeting and re-upped people then.
We get it just to get,
And said, we're gonna move all these people to expire in this time, and then we're gonna move all these people to expire. Remember? So we kind of already shifted people around. Yeah.
but,
So I'm like, these people are gonna think they signed up for like a lifetime appointment. But I know of somebody that's resigned from EDC, right? Brandon Billings, I think he's resigned from EDC.
I haven't gotten his
He
resignation.
told me he's resigning.
So he has not sent a letter of
So
resignation.
that's an issue, because, like, that's gonna be an issue with
So-
making quorum on things like that.
So, look, can we talk, so let me make sure, because I wanna get consensus where I see consensus. I believe, like we said with July, it's a no-brainer. How we get there is gonna be the discussion. What I also believe is if somebody resigns, I don't care if they've got 3 months left, 1 month, we should fill that position. I just believe that if there's a opening, you can't push on a rope to require somebody who's resigned to be on a meeting, and those are quorum things, so that's just part of our job, is that's the timing that came, and don't like it, but that it is what it is.
So the people that have not maybe the people that have said, hey, I'm not reapplying, are we going to ask that they resign?
I was gonna ask if they wanna be I would take it the other test, because I believe in,
Or extend it.
yeah, in inclusion rather than exclusion.
Well, yeah, I agree with
So,
that, but-
so I would rather have them ask, are they truly wanting to be re-upped or not? We need to know one way or the other, because it's our responsibility to take action. And the people I've talked to have said they want to, but again, this is verbal. This can't be that way. It can't be like, there, it needs to be official. That's why it needs to be done one time. Right? But
Well, I feel like y'all are all on the same team on this July idea, so, I like the idea, like I said, of July. I just feel like he's definitely taking the,
taking some power away? Is that what
a
it's-
little bit, but that's,
Not meant
like I
to.
said, I wasn't really,
I think it's good housekeeping, and then the expectation is set. Everyone knows it's July, so if you want to go out for a committee, you go out in whenever April they post, and,
I believe it's just the evolution of what we did is that I actually believe the requirements we put in for publication and publicity and visibility are good. Now we've got a different problem. It's now manifesting it to where we are now. So this is just where the suggestion is how to fix it. I don't think there's really an intent for Paula, Chaser, or you to not have a say. And I would also say what that would mean is we need to get to where, if we have true vacancies, then I think this council has to work to make sure we get those done expeditiously. If people don't want to re-up, if people have resigned, if people are doing things, then those are things that we have to do now.
So would that be council setting a policy that even though we advertise for the positions on a yearly basis, and next year when we sit here, or we have to fill those positions
Yeah.
again, if they do not reapply, are we still going to call
So
them?
let's-
So I just I would like,
Yeah, so let's ask, I hear your question.
Yeah.
So let me play it out and give it, so we're in the same situation next year. Brandon Billings, rather than resigning this year, resigns January of next year, right? And we haven't had an opening because they're all filled. We have a publication requirement that says that we have to put in the compass rose, we have to put it on the website, and we have to put it on there, which means it's gonna be March or April before we are actually in a position to get new applicants for that open position in order to fill that position, which is kind of the same dilemma for you, right?
Except that
So if
applications
you
are
have
out for a
applicants
year.
already,
Yeah.
would you have to do that?
That's the question.
Well-
Do we say if we're gonna do like one time where everybody who's things, we have a pool of applicants that we can just, rather than publicizing, just, you hear me? It says we wouldn't publish.
It was in
What is the
the
point?
November or December Compass Rose to apply for the committee member.
Correct. But I'm just saying is fast forward a year, right? So let's say let's plan on success, right? We do everything we say, in March, or February, March, we fill all the ones that are truly vacant. And come July, those terms, we fill all those, we can still have somebody resign in January. And do we feel like we still have an obligation to communicate to the citizens that open position?
Or just appoint from the pool
Or
of
just
applications.
appoint from the pool that's there?
No, I think it's April's application month, it goes without saying, and then as long as there's applicants there, you pull from there, just know that if anyone is new to the neighborhood, they can feel free to apply at any time
I was gonna
within
say,
the year.
anybody can
And
apply
you
anytime.
might,
throughout
you
the
might
year.
just quarterly
Put
put
it
in.
in the Compass
Yeah,
Rose.
put in the Compass Rose.
Quarterly or
And then
however
that
you
would
want.
allow us to not get caught
It's
behind
always
these.
scanning, because
And
we're always
say-
gonna have new
Correct.
residents.
In July, council reviews applications at the council, well, are we really gonna review these applications in a council meeting?
No, we should
Like,
have
it should be a
appointed.
workshop or something.
You know,
Because that's
so
gonna
let me,
be,
you know how it used to be?
How?
And I've got my hands slapped because we, as we were continuing, as we've had new, it used to be done in executive session.
I
So,
like
so
that.
there could be done, and it was what was Zena said, that is absolutely not what the Texas code is.
She would know.
Any type of things here, this was Zena who said that, said you must have that in public session, not, and that's why we're doing it.
But aren't the applications gonna be posted on the website? I mean, are the applications not posted on the website?
No.
But
They're not?
But you could have a three-member,
subcommittee, like
Application
subcommittee.
review committee?
That makes
Another
like
committee.
recommendations. Yeah.
I
And
don't-
when
I
will we
don't-
re-up them?
we would only do that maybe once a year.
I mean, guys, I just think this is part of our job, is that, yeah, I'm gonna
So
say.
we'll have it in,
So the view was that, I mean, again, we would make, like you said, April's, open enrollment, right?
Month.
Right? 1 month or maybe even
Application.
2, so you say April, May. And that at the end of May, we'd have all the
That's
things
what I'm
that.
saying, some of it's
Just
not
keep
all
it
throughout the
open.
year, so it's,
It
I
is
mean, there's
open.
always.
I
gonna
mean,
be
it
a
is
plan.
open, but I mean, you're asking, she says that.
but do the final push for applications.
The final
in
push for
April.
Correct,
application
so
April.
to do the things.
Just run it as customary
Continuous.
every 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
If you're interested
I mean,
in applying
so-
to the
so-
boards, just direct.
I'm okay with it, but I mean, I've heard criticism on council that said, their last minute, resumes coming in rather than, the
Well,
deadline
we gotta
that we
have a-
say.
We're gonna have
you
a
know.
cutoff before
That-
as the point when we're.
So I was trying to set a cutoff,
You know?
is do we want a
Yeah.
cutoff? I actually think no, but I like the idea of putting a deadline so that people know that there's there, and we can then use that information. Do they do it before or after the
Well,
deadline?
elections May, right?
Correct.
So you'll have and then you get sworn in June.
You get sworn in June, correct.
In May. Well, I guess yes, because March,
Like 11
May.
days after.
So the
Unless we have a.
our process
You get a month
is
to have
they
your foot
formally,
under
there's a I guess the canvassing gets done about 10 days, it was 11 days after the election, right? And that's when you actually officially pass the baton. But we have a ceremony where people come, you get the last meeting where the people are there, you have the people, read their oaths of office, there's a switching of the guard, and then we have juice and cookies, right? And then we go into business, and usually it's a light agenda, and then really the first month of business is usually that July meeting.
So,
That's how things happen.
We don't have a meeting in April.
We have a meeting in April.
Yeah.
Every
You're
month
saying
we.
establishing a cutoff for these April to July appointments, or.
Yeah, just so.
But like, what if Billings resigns January 1st, somebody comes and slips in a new application January 2nd, and then we have a meeting on the 7th of January, can we still take into consideration the new persons? Do you know what I'm saying? So there's no cutoff for that meeting.
I believe the answer should be yes.
It should be, yes.
I think it should be yes too.
I think it should be yes.
Yeah, because you're gonna have a continual
You know?
application rolling
Yeah,
process,
I
but the
think
official
continuous
cutoff
application
is
should still be.
July is gonna
Right.
be.
oh, you're
so-
talking in a resignation.
In a resignation
Yes,
situation.
yes, which I wanna talk about resignations, I know I'm gonna pivot whenever we get to a good point.
But,
Yeah.
but I mean, to me, again, this is I do want, I like the idea, I'll say it that way, I support where we would have an April sign up, 2 months to get your things in, and have a deadline, even though that's just a deadline for get people in. And then we have a pool of candidates that come July, we should be able to distribute that June 1 to the new members of council that would then look and make decisions in the July session. They'd have 6 weeks to look at it, a whole month to be able to contact people and do stuff.
I like that.
And then we would make a decision in July. If we have a resignation and things there, I think, I like the idea of getting you out of the complete, right now, every committee, you've got to publish these things. We're saying we're doing it once, but if we put in the Compass Rose, every quarter, open enrollment for applications for things like that and publish it, I'm good with that. We'd have our pool, and if somebody resigns, rather than waiting this 4 months to get everything published and set, we just pull from our inventory of candidates and just get on with it.
So you want to do this in the regular July council meeting?
Yes.
The appointments.
The appointments?
Yes.
Okay. Would everybody get everything prior, like, we usually get our agenda, like?
Do the applications
Yeah,
July
but
1.
this is what I'm saying
Or
is
June
We
2nd,
would
whatever
need
it
the
is.
cutoff to be like July 1st or whatever.
That's what I was going to say, May 31st.
Yeah, so you have a whole
Or
month to
May-
look
So
at
it'd
it.
be 2 months.
Needs to be so we have time to review them.
Correct.
The 72-hour window is not.
I agree.
Yeah.
So let me say, if I do the chronology again, you'd say April 1 is when, or the April Compass Rose, which means we'd have to do it in March, right? Because March 11th would have to have the April, publication that we open up April 1st to May 31st, and we do it in the next 2 Compass Rose. We put it on the website, things like that, and then that we'd say by May 31st, so that all those resumes would go in the hands of the existing, or all duly elected, seated council members June 1st, which would go through the canvas, right, so the things, and they would have 6 weeks, basically, to contact anybody or do anything.
I'm fine with that, except I feel like you're talking about a period of applications, and I'm talking about and you're talking about open applications, like just accepting applications. You're talking about like that window.
Yeah, I'm talking, so you're right, I put in that deadline, but I didn't want it to be.
The deadline is good.
I was thinking only the deadline, because she says you get
just
more
deadline,
people
but not
to
like, hey, we're only
respond when you put a deadline.
Not like we're only accepting applications for 6 weeks, because then that is really confusing. I think we just
put
be
them
like,
in
oh, let's
all
see
year
all
round.
the
All year round.
applications
Yep.
that have been there.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just say open enrollment, however you want to talk on it, is between here.
The upcoming 2-year
Yep.
term, like the
Correct.
versus the resignation appointment.
But I do believe that, if we run that process, then we're really talking about people who resign. And if we're publishing every quarter to remind people and things like that, if they're interested to be putting in, I feel like we're doing our responsibility to communicate. And then we just pull from those for those people who resign, move away, whatever.
Yeah, because the issue is you do have to fill resignations, because you can't be having risks of not meeting quorum.
Correct.
And keep in mind, any good committee is always going to be they're always going to be looking for good people to join. And they're always going to be promoting their committee and trying to say, oh, if you're interested, fill out an application.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're always, you have that angle too.
Yeah, correct.
And I'm looking on Link City's website, and it looks like every single committee expires in December.
Yeah, so they do it on a calendar year. We're doing it on an election year. That makes sense.
Which I see
Well, don't they have a November election?
I see the appeals December too, because it's like in front of the election, right? It's like, just distant enough that you're like not thinking about it.
When does Lake City do their election for city council though? Isn't it
I
November?
feel like it is November.
Yeah. So it'd be the same. Yeah.
I don't think you should dodge the issue that it's an election. I think they're one and the same. I really do.
That's fine.
Gets people
I'm
more
on board.
involved
I'm
and
just
make
trying
sure
to-
that
People
if
aren't
they want
committed
to,
to it.
If they want to turn a park into something else, and they get people in control of it, they would want people on Parks and Rec that have something other than a park. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just using an extreme example of making a point.
It looks like Webster's in June, all positions.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what we're doing. We're trying to shore up if there's been resignations.
Yes.
If it's like, will you continue or are you resigning? If you're resigning, then, and that shouldn't be a knock on these people because they're already over their term. I don't think that we should count this against them. Like, oh, I'm already
But I should also, if they're term limited out, like Cindy Deweese,
Right.
we should use this time to tell them you're term limited out. Just heads up, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also too, would it be wise to ask if they would want to serve on another committee?
Sure.
I think anything like that, anything to include more people, if they're not willing to, if they're resigning from this one, and just say, hey, you certainly are eligible to sign up for any other ones if that's what your desire.
They'd like to change their application to
Yeah.
maybe something else.
I believe any way to include people is the best route.
Okay.
And if they are resigning, if it's a phone call, it should be in writing, I'm resigning. So,
Yeah.
oh, he said he was, but he wasn't, like you said, Billings, we don't, like, it's not in writing, you know what I'm saying? I just wanted to be
Yeah,
honorable
I
that,
agree.
yeah.
I just texted him and said,
Yeah.
bro.
Bro.
I think we're in a good spot. Are we
I think
in agreement?
we
Actually,
are.
I didn't, before you jump off on that, so I just want to make sure I understand fully. So July is when we will start renewing people, correct? And we would, I guess, pick them in that July meeting. But my concern is, so this council has been elected for 2 years. So I see a lot of yellow on this, and I know we're going to be shoring up vacancies. There's a lot of people that may not already be, or they may not want to continue on. And if we find out that there are vacancies, I think us as a council have a duty to make sure that
It gets done.
we get these people selected and put on there.
I agree.
I don't think it'd be something that we should postpone and say, oh, well, it's the next council's prerogative.
Yeah, so
I agree.
fill vacancies now.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But, yeah, but not.
I think you guys are saying the same thing. I really do. I
But
think
do we have and I know this
We need to
perhaps
define
looks
vacancies.
accurate.
that's the work
Yeah.
effort that
Yeah,
she's
so
going to
she's
do.
gonna short up and say, okay, if there's a vacancy, like me, like my vacancy, I came up in October, like, yes, I want to stay on Parks Committee, some painting curbs for everybody, so.
I saw you haven't reapplied.
Yeah, I didn't reply.
That's what I'm getting at. I don't think that's really reflective of people's interest.
But what I'm saying is, like, if we've got vacancies, then I think this council has a duty to fill those. Because
agree.
we've been elected for 2 years, and I don't
It's the
want
job.
to be, just saying, hey, just
That's
put up
the
the next
job.
council. So I still agree with moving it to July. It makes a lot of sense, it's very uniform.
But
I
if
think
there's
that
an immediate vacancy.
if there's a vacancy, then we need to fill that.
I agree.
Because there is probably, like Lucy was saying, there's special events committees, there's, several people on there
I mean,
that.
look at this.
I would say there's 4 on a good day.
So I think we should, if we really want to have people participating and have efficient governance, then we need to make sure that we're.
Yeah, this is
everything
governance.
agrees with.
This is governance.
So,
Correct.
that's
I
what-
agree.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Real quick on this, since we're gonna go off of this, and you're gonna bless it with Maria that this is accurate, but street task is over, right?
No,
No,
it's
it's
not.
still existing?
Yeah, because there's, that actually has to be on there because we get a quarter-cent designation that
Wow.
committee cannot go away.
Oh, okay, a little, as much.
So that, yeah, so about $150,000 a year flows to that specifically to address the streets. And we use that money in conjunction with some other things in order to be able to do all the street repair that we do.
Okay.
So, no, that's got to
And
stay.
charter review committee's over, right?
It is.
It's,
6 months.
Yeah.
Done.
Yep.
okay.
So question on.
So just to be clear, because I don't want to be, the charter review committee was established within the time frame required by the charter. They did their chartered responsibilities. They've had recommendations for charter changes that were accepted by council, and we're now going through here. We may retest with council. We voted to accept your things. So right now, unless we do something, those will be on the ballot. Right? And that fulfills our charter responsibility. If we fail to do what you recommended, then we're in default of our charter. And that's why I've been all over her. We are not going to do that. And then we need to make sure, because that's all lead time. It's all, the wording's got to be done, everything there. and it's gotta be submitted so it can actually be in the back. That's gonna come up in February. So either, we gotta, so, and then that means the Charter Review Committee doesn't have to meet for another 5 years.
But we also talked about having an ongoing one.
Yeah, but that wasn't in the charter, that would have to be, yeah, correct.
So what are we saying is the deadline for having these individuals called to see if they want to continue for the period of time? Are we gonna set a deadline for this?
We'd like, it's all up to her availability, but I'd like to have it for February's, council meeting. Would be my desire. She may tell me you're crazy.
That's all you know is
But I think I'd really like to focus some effort here to make sure that it's identified and we take action.
So we'll take action to appoint any vacancies on February meeting.
That's what I'd like, as if we can get that data correct. Yes,
And we have advertised it enough that hopefully people,
I think we have.
most committees
We've
have applied.
done that.
It seems like there's applicants for
Yep.
almost everything.
So, yes. Okay.
So that's gonna be the policy if they don't apply and ask them if they are.
Yeah, I think what we're asking you to do is saying, are you wanting to re-up or are you resigning? Because that's what we're asking.
And then
Well,
you
the term
just,
has expired, so we should say your term expired.
Yeah, fair enough.
Your term has expired, but council is doing this new thing.
No, we're trying to say we have moved the terms to
Right, we're trying to
July.
make everything expire in July of every year to create uniformity. So we wanna know if you would be willing to extend your service until July, or if you're just ready to term it.
Yeah, if you're tapping out.
Yeah.
and whatever they decide, they put it in writing.
Yes. Correct.
I mean, I just feel like it should be.
I would, so let's just say, I'm actually comfortable with her, and I put work on you, and I'm so sorry, because I know how slammed your desk is right now, is, people may verbally do that, and I'd be willing to let her capture it, I'm willing to have her send a letter, this is the document that you have said that you are no longer willing to serve, so there's a record with a conversation.
Record is the point.
Because I'm not so sure, I love our residents, I love our citizens, but getting letters back is pulling teeth.
Yeah, so if they verbally say, no, I'm not,
Yeah, we have to,
I'm not willing to serve.
per our discussion, this is confirmed here, and if you do not, correct this, then we're gonna assume that that's your resignation.
Mayor, I don't know if it's legal or anything, but would help Maria with some of the reducing some of it. Would it be feasible to Maria to reach out to the committee chairmen and say, here's a responsibility for you?
I would really rather not.
No?
Just because I'm looking at this and saying, this is governance and the government should come from the council.
Sure.
And these are the rules here, and I would rather it come from the city secretary. And if we need to hire somebody to help her, to attempt, I'd be willing to do that too.
The emails and letters that were sent said all of that specifically working. But what I'm hearing is, for me to call them. That did not respond, totally applied.
Or people we know just kind of nudge them, hey, you got a note from Maria, can you just.
We can, but I actually think, because I'll tell you one thing, if somebody called Glenn and told him that, he wouldn't have the chip on his shoulder that he has right now. And I know Gary Mossman has the same thing, because we have had a very poor process that we need to make that call. Okay. Anything else in this area? Keep going.
it just, I don't know, hit me when you came in here tonight, but as far as resignations go, I don't know if there's anything in writing with respect to resignations, but I think that perhaps if someone does elect to resign from a committee, they should have a 1-year cooling off period, not be able to reapply for that same committee. So, you know, does that make sense? So if someone resigns and a week later.
A penalty box. they call
Yeah,
it.
I mean, someone a week later says, oh, no, I really didn't mean it, I wanna come back and rejoin. No, you said your piece, you put it in writing, there should be some sort of, right, like.
Is
you
it
see what I'm
necessary
saying?
though, or are you saying?
I mean, I just feel like because of, I don't know, historical stuff, that I think that there should perhaps be a, not a penalty, but
Well,
there's,
that's what it would be. It'd be
to Spencer's point, there's a lot of people that wanna, volunteer, there's a lot of applicants, and you just resigned, so we're not gonna take you back, we're gonna give it to somebody else.
Alienate them from doing other things. So like, I mean, if I didn't,
Do you know
if
what I'm
I
saying?
spent time on one committee, I might want to do something else for a
Yeah,
period
on the
of time.
same committee.
On another.
Yes.
It's the same committee.
It's
is
the
what
same
you're talking
committee to
about,
say, no, you, because
I mean, I don't think.
I think that's kind of the spirit of,
They
there's
can-
another, no?
They can really just go online.
But see, here's the thing
and
is-
apply. It should be council's.
Yeah, we can
But
just say.
it's
Yeah, I
council's
mean-
decision.
I guess that's,
It's council's
I'd rather be,
decision.
I'd rather
Okay.
be
It takes care of
inclusive
itself.
rather
And I
than
guess it's up to
exclusive.
council, never mind, scratch that, it just,
Yeah. Yeah.
because again, I guess I go back to why we're here, I really feel like regardless, council has the authority right now to, you know, take anybody off the committee, so it just, yeah, I guess we still have the authority, so why are we, this has never been an issue in the past, so why now? I guess is kind of the bigger picture of perhaps moving past this housekeeping of July, so.
I hear you, I just don't want more rules.
No, I
Yeah, I
agree.
agree with you. I think
It
it's got to
just-
be inclusive. So, but I think she kind of went through it anyway.
Yeah, I know, I withdrew it, but I'm just saying that, again, kind of going into our next topic, we still have the authority to take people on or off, so we can dive into the next residency.
Yeah, anything else, any other policy here for this?
I like this, I think this makes sense.
If you want me to help you write a letter, I'm good at writing letters.
And that's okay, we, you know, we have staff that's always willing to help and do the calls and all
I think-
that stuff.
I think-
We could,
yep.
we could help her with that.
Honestly, this is the biggest hurdle.
That helps.
It is, of course it is.
Karen,
Yeah.
yes.
Just getting to where we are now, that was a big hurdle. Calling the residents, we can handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This should fix your problem.
Yes, and just, having a just structured, policy process so that we're transparent and everyone knows what to expect.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay.
What if she doesn't hear from me? What if she
I
just
mean-
sends the letter after, like, what if?
If it's an expired term and we just can't get a hold of somebody, and we've tried and done it in good faith several times, I think we have, give them a final letter rather than the other, which says, we try to talk right now,
Or in the initial letter, say, you're.
Yeah,
if
or
you
the
don't
initial letter,
respond
same
within-
thing.
If you don't respond within 2 weeks, we
I
will
would rather
look
do
at
that. I'd rather do that, and I would just think,
Yeah, go.
In my previous cities, we send them emails. And if they don't respond to an email from the city, that means
Not
they're not
interested.
interested.
Yeah.
Because you could be sending them emails for a meeting. and you
Yep.
don't hear from them.
yeah,
So after that, we just send them a letter saying thank you for your service and
yeah, and move on.
move on.
I think that's right.
And I sent the emails.
But sometimes emails go into spam or go into another phone.
They do.
People have gotten so
And
many
not
emails.
everybody, really does it, so that's why I really wanna, I want somebody to reach out and touch somebody. Right? Okay? I think we have consensus.
Sounds like it, we'll find out on.
We'll find out when we codify it, right?
I didn't agree with it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Dick's gonna have to come up with something.
Yep. Okay,
Okay.
that works. Anything else? Then next topic is,
Is there any specific, position or word that anyone feels is not correct? That
Special events is probably all wrong. I think,
Are we talking about the blue and yellow sheet here?
yeah. Although those are
I
expired.
don't think so.
Well, okay.
Lucy, are you saying yours is incorrect?
Yeah, that's, I didn't see that first one.
I'm not even the chair of special events.
Yeah.
That part is not correct.
Lucy is not correct.
Wayne, she and yellow.
There have been people that have, not shown up for.
So here, let me just do we, no, I'm just gonna go on, never mind.
So that one it's the one I'm the most concerned about, just in general. And they don't get a lot of love, and no one encourages them, so I don't know why they would.
I mean, there's 7 people on special events, and I believe every one of them are active. Are active 3. Pardon me?
I wouldn't consider myself active in special events. I don't even know what's
Well,
going on.
yes, but I know Barecki, Michelle,
The Michelle's, yes. Mary Nev,
Simpson,
yes.
Waterwall,
And Evelyn
Abel.
helps when she can.
Yeah.
So there's 3, 4, and
2 Michelles.
4, and then Michelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3, and then. Yeah.
Okay.
They're the ones that attend all the meetings.
I don't even know when the meetings are.
I go to the meetings
have one
periodically.
They have everyone Friday.
Michelle Brady texted me because I asked her a question. She said, well, we're gonna have that confirmed on Friday.
See, I don't even know that stuff. So that's why. Did you know that, Chase?
What's that?
There's a special events committee meeting this week?
I was not aware of that.
See, so that's,
It could be a moon event. I don't know.
You know,
I don't know, but that's what
sounds like the chair should.
I'm not the chair. That's why I'm saying this isn't accurate.
Yeah, so,
But don't the committee meetings need to be posted to the website or, out there somewhere?
Oh, they're not gonna
they
be
actually
informed
do.
anyway.
They very much do.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it,
Unless they're a subcommittee, and there's
So we
less
did
than
do, like,
less
we've
than a
done
quorum.
subcommittees where Michelle and I would meet and talk about the parade or,
yeah. If there's a formal meeting, it needs to be
Posted.
posted.
it does.
It
So
sure
Lucy, who's the chair?
Well, the rule is it has to be posted
Not Lucy.
publicly so that.
What
everyone can
last
manage
term
it.
was Michelle
and
Barecki
Michelle Barecki were
are
sharing.
co-chairing it.
Co-chair.
Because, like, this time of year, Michelle gets busy for tax season.
I texted Michelle.
You what?
I texted Michelle to see about Friday. To confirm.
Okay, let me know.
Okay.
So I just think it would be nice to sit down with them and say, what can we do here? Because when I was more active, I advertised the crap out of it. And no one would touch it.
Well, it's supposed to be physically posted.
It was, no, it has been.
Right.
And we've done that, no one shows up. I mean, people don't show up to it, so.
Well, that's where there's this 3 strikes you're out. They're already in our
Yeah.
ordinance.
That's what this is probably wrong. There's more than 3 strikes.
But our ordinance says may be, so it really is to the discretion of
So
the
then no one's gonna get
committee.
kicked off this committee.
Doesn't say shall be, it says may be. Right?
But-
So
What's
that's,
a valid excuse? I mean,
No.
what do you consider a valid excuse?
yeah.
I don't know
Anyways,
that they're beneficial meetings, to be honest.
but I mean, right now, these are the people I know that I would say she should call. I think it's the right group.
It's the right group.
And do what our task is. I don't believe there's more than that.
No.
So I think that's the
There have
right.
been some people that
over here,
popped
I mean,
in
the
here that
group,
it's not been right.
the purpose of this list is to say not whether these people need to be contacted to see whether or not they want to stay on till July, or if they have, said that their top term has expired and that they no longer are participating.
I hope they have the right answer.
So, I mean, we'll deal with it whichever way it goes, because that's, like Chase said, that's our job.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
okay?
I think we beat this to death.
I think we have. It's only 8 o'clock.
We're out of here
The next one, which is probably an easier topic, right, is residency, right? You know, Sarah, did you want to?
Well, I mean, I said my piece at the meeting, and I don't know if it's been a while since then, but I mean, it's standard form for all the surrounding cities to require residency. Now, it makes sense to me, certainly in advisory committees, to require that. You know, Maria handed out this handy sheet of, like, I think this is an example. Is this an example from another city? Okay, so it shows the difference between, you know, the advisory boards versus the regulatory boards. That ordinance that I was attempting to amend to require residency, it applied only to our advisory boards. What's the equivalent of our advisory boards? Because it had a cutout for all the regulatory boards that are regulated by state law or other things, right? So that in particular made sense to me. Obviously, you know, Nassau Area Management District is going to include people that are involved in the local, you know, businesses and things like that.
Keep going.
I mean, I know that people brought up like these kind of crazy scenarios where, okay, somebody's house has been, you know, hit by a storm and they're having to move out. You know, I'm
just calling you crazy.
No, I think that's very realistic.
I did that too.
But no, and so it wasn't supposed to sound like a super sharp-tongued and like, okay, and then that person would be off the committee. You know, obviously it would be, the committee is following this ordinance that says basically that people that are residents should be on the committee. And if you're no longer a resident, obviously if you've moved away, you're no longer a resident of Nassau Bay. Now, if you have moved away temporarily because your home flooded, that you're still a resident of Nassau Bay, you're renovating your house or whatever. I mean, you moved to Voyager, but I wouldn't have said that you were, if you moved outside, I wouldn't have said you no longer were a resident. You still owned a house, that was your homestead, you know? So, that's just my point, is that I just think that residents should get priority.
But how do you define a resident?
Can I before we go there to that level, you know, I've gone back and I've looked at every bit of input that I've gotten from people, and you know, it's basically it comes down to two different kind of schools, and then there's hybrids off it. But I think there's either people going, why are you excluding people? You should have as many volunteers as you can, to where the other side is all committees, not park committees. If I look at all the emails that I've gotten, they have not taken out the regulatory boards. They have said all committees, that they believe that if this is something which is an important criteria, they don't believe there should be an exception. And there's a side of me that when I went back to look at some of the rules, the advisory boards, council has total control. I mean, total control. The advisory boards, we do not. And in fact, if I use if I look at the national, but I'm just saying is that's my concern. Is I think that's the people that I've talked to, they have more concern over having somebody not from Nassau Bay on a committee we have little control over. People say those are the ones I want Nassau Bay people on, because council doesn't have the ability to control like they do the advisory boards. So, I mean, again, I'm just looking at the information that we've all received. If you go back, it's been broken down into what the hell are you doing, or we need them in all. And I've seen some hybrid stuff where, you know, I shouldn't use his name, but he was saying, you know, if you own property, you should be on a committee, but if you live outside, then you shouldn't be chair. You know, there's been, you know, people who then are saying, you know, different boards, but it's been in the small minority, very small minority of people saying anything other than all, or what are you doing?
I think the people that have said all might not understand that we actually, because we don't control these things, we don't actually have the ability to say, hey, and those people can only be from Nassau Bay.
We actually can.
We can?
We can.
So, but not with like the animal,
It just says we gotta find a veterinarian in Nassau Bay.
Yeah.
It just adds a complexity.
I feel like there's another thing on there though.
But again, I'm looking at things here, and I've talked to some people when I said that, and you know, I've seen some people push back and go, you know, oh, I didn't realize that there may be a need to have for some outside expertise, and I didn't, you know, maybe we shouldn't be that hard-toothed. And then I've had other people double down and say it's precisely that reason, because I want to make sure that, you know, my tax dollars for things that aren't controlled by council are done by Nassau Bay people. So, I mean, that's where, when I look at my experience on being on council back starting in 1997, you know, to now, I mean, I've seen where we've had outside people play some fairly significant roles on just about every committee. You know, but I get it. If we're saying, if the majority of citizens and things like that think that we should do this, again, I'm saying the majority have said all, not just a carve out.
Bill, on the boards that are required by law that we have, are there any Nassau Bay residents on those boards?
Yes, there are.
Okay, so how
In fact, the preponderance.
Well,
Not exclusively, but a
right.
preponderance.
And I think that's that makes me feel better. Having the CEO of Methodist to be on there, he has interest in some of the committees that we have in our community. I think that's a great thing.
That's
Why
an
not?
excuse of having, there should not be a criteria. I would say Lauren Griffith, who did a lot of our landscaping throughout our citizenry back in the 1997 to 2000, did a whole lot of landscaping plans for our streets, for our parks, as well as Nassau Road 1, and was not a citizen of Nassau Bay.
Was he paid for that expertise?
Pardon me?
Was he paid for that expertise?
Yes,
Yeah.
but was actually a committee member too.
Yeah. Well, you know,
But I mean-
the only thing that I'm saying, or that I've tried to be clear, is because we have people from outside our community coming in all the time to volunteer in this community
we
because
do.
they love it.
They-
And I think that's fantastic.
I do too.
And why would you even think, just because you want to have people appointed to the committee from the council, why wouldn't those people be residents in Nassau Bay? Because they're all resident committees. I mean, residents want to be involved in their community. That's what they're trying to be.
Yeah.
And the chair, all these people involved should be residents of the committee. Residents of Nassau Bay.
Yeah.
But you can have other people from any other committee if they want to attend.
They want to
great.
yeah, so
if they want to participate, wonderful.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is you still like the idea of everybody who's a voting member of the committee, an officio, you know, position, not an ex officio where you can just be a volunteer, right? You still, what I heard you say is, I like that, you know, I'll just use the Nassau. Carl Little can be part of our Nassau, he just can't be a voting member because he's not a citizen of Nassau Bay.
Yeah, they're not chairing this committee. They're not
Correct.
leading it and saying
That's-
this is
that's
what
what
you
it-
should be doing.
I've heard, if I was to say it's gone about 60-40 in what basically what you're saying, 60-40.
I've talked with a lot of people who are frankly not happy for Nassau Bay to consider having someone who leads a committee not live in Nassau, not be a resident.
Yeah, the question then is, we'll get to that, is what does that mean as a resident? Because there's been a whole lot of debate to say, you know, does somebody who rents is a resident, but somebody who owns property is not? Right, so there's some things, and I've got some ideas there, but I mean, right now I want to at least get to the first level like we did before. Is, you know, is this something we need to define? Because there's a very large group that actually is like going WTF. We have always had people participate in these, and we want outside people to participate. Why are we being exclusive? And there's a whole bunch of people that says we want every voting member to be a Nassau Bay citizen.
But I think we need to define, we need to separate volunteers from committee and board members.
Yeah, fair
I mean,
point. Fair enough.
appointed members.
And
And I think volunteers, I'm all for it because we have students volunteer, we have people from outside volunteer. There's so many different volunteers that come into our community to help through different avenues, and I think that's key.
My view is the only authority we have here, because people can volunteer, is who do we appoint in an officio capacity. They are an unpaid, believe it or not, they're an unpaid employee of the city as in these positions. We went over that in the charter. We got legal things here. So the question is, you know, I think we gotta say is, you know, and I do believe is it should be about all boards, or what are we doing? People are saying
I mean, when you
WTF.
look at all these other cities, they're doing the same thing, the same exact thing. And it's all, you have to be a resident to be on these committees.
How do you define residency?
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Let's at least
I honestly have a problem. I do. Because if some small business owner tells me they want to join the special events committee and help plan events and they want to be active in it, and we can't even fill it with residents, then why would I say no?
Okay, but like, so Methodist versus your person that did the landscaping and everything else, I see those as two different people. Because Methodist has they're a staple within our community. They're within Nassau Bay, the city of Nassau Bay. They have a vested interest in our community. They have a business, like you said, Chick-fil-A, or a business, or whatever else. Or we can name a dozen different vendors and different businesses. They have a vested interest in our community. Therefore, to me, they're a resident. They're a business resident within our community. So therefore, I think they are a staple in that respect, in some way.
You could look at it that way, but I mean, the converse of that is, we are a community of residents and citizens who have the voting authority as to what they believe should be done, which may run into conflict with a business.
And now I understand.
Business operation, which I would actually.
That's a good point.
I'm just saying, in balancing it, that's where
So, and they could volunteer.
Correct.
And so and there I see your point.
Yeah.
I just really
Good
struggle with if someone comes up to me and I have to say, sorry, you're not a resident, but no residents will go join this committee. I do have a problem.
No, because you know, this is the first that I've heard SEC doesn't have, needs committee members. So I'm just saying, maybe that needs to be promoted.
Okay, Paula mentioned when we had that meeting, she said we must prioritize residents, which, so I understand if you're not being able to fulfill a committee because residents are not applying for it, and you're like, the lady that owns Scrumptious is like, I would love to be a member of special events committee, and I would bring case to all of your things. Okay, I understand, Lucy, where you're coming from, because I would want that woman to join special events too. But if there were like 10 residents applications sitting in wait, lying in wait, and you're like, I'm gonna pick the Scrumptious lady over them, I would have a problem with that. So, I'd be like, you can volunteer and you can bring your case.
Which
to all
then
of
that's
our
up to council to do that. That would be a council decision to prioritize a business over people, which I don't think would happen either.
Yeah, right.
I just feel like if you were on the special events committee and somebody in a business said, I would really love to be on your committee, then the answer would be, we would love to have you volunteer for us. That would be amazing. Thank you so much. But like, do they need to be on the committee? No.
Sure.
Will they
That's a good
volunteer?
point.
Of course they will. They always do.
They always do.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
I think the answer is always, thank you so much for volunteering. We would love to have you in all scenarios, you know? But I do believe there's a difference in volunteering and being on a committee.
Yeah.
And the special events committee can have 4 people on the committee and 50 volunteers.
They
and be
can't, it doesn't meet the
fantastic.
charter. The
And be
charter doesn't
fantastic.
allow for you to have a 4-person committee.
That's different.
I mean,
That's a
the
different
same-
thing that you'll need to
Yeah.
discuss
It's the
this.
same thing. Because we made everything consistent. We passed something in this council
Maybe 7.
to put more rules on committees, which included the number of people that have to be on each committee.
So that's not chartered, that's.
It's
That's a
ordinance.
different issue.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not a charter.
It is not.
It's not, but that's
We
what
try to
that's what we
standardize
established in our
certain
ordinance.
things.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
I believe it's 8 to 12 members,
8 to 12, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
which form spot.
Then maybe the committee needs to be dissolved if we can't form it, you know?
Maybe it does.
But,
That's a
Or-
committee issue. That's
so
a-
go ahead,
But again,
Like I'm just saying.
I haven't heard from
This
these
is the
two
first that
here.
I've heard
well, go
now.
ahead, Chase.
Oh, I'm just taking it all.
Does it help?
I'm gonna keep my crazy ideas to myself for now.
You're gonna bring them in the end.
Maybe.
I just don't understand why it's so difficult to distinguish between a regulatory board and an advisory board, because there's some, I mean, that's what.
just because the citizens I've talked to,
Well, I think
And,
they don't
I know,
understand.
and that goes back to your whole
Right.
educating our citizens, that they don't know. But what they sent in and what we hear from them is that
Right.
it needs to be at all.
Well,
And I wanna hear about residency.
do we want to go to that?
I mean, I don't.
Because I think,
And I just keep going back,
so let me
this
say
has
this
never been an
way.
issue in 50
Let
years.
me say it this way, because of,
well, because
How
has
we
anybody
define
else ever
residency
tried
may-
to chair a committee?
no,
Has it
but
been
it-
audited before?
No.
I mean, this is clearly flying out, it's just the
So,
timing.
so,
is
so
impeccable.
my understanding is, so based off of that comment, we're upset that there is potentially a non-resident chairing a committee. Is that what this whole thing is over?
So part of what sparked the whole thing is because it's.
So it's a one-person issue.
It is.
I mean, that's what it was a one-person issue over 50 years, and now we're having to.
Well, when you have applicants that, you okay with it?
Okay.
every once in a while I get my
Um,
last tail end of this. But
If you have people that are residents of the city that have applied for a committee, and then there's somebody that's on the committee that's no longer a resident, I just think that it's probably an issue that needs to be addressed. I mean, it can be addressed when they are up for renewal, which that individual was up for renewal in October of 2024. So it's a matter of, do you want to address the issue? It's good governance to address the issue of whether you want to have require residency in these or not. But if you just kind of want to act like that's not an issue, then that's okay too. I just thought that it was important to address whether we were going to require residency of these people or not. You know, it seems like a civilian committee that makes decisions on or advocates for spending money on.
they
certain
recommend.
things,
Let's say
right?
they don't actually.
They don't.
They do make recommendations on funding and what to fund and what not to fund.
But we as a council make that decision.
Yeah, the other boards
obviously
actually don't need council approval to spend money.
So at the end of the day, it's not a non-resident, however they're classifying that, that's making any real decision. They would just be making a recommendation to the council, who obviously has residency requirements.
Again, we still have the authority, if we want to remove somebody because they're a non-resident, we can do that. But
Or if
again,
you want to remove somebody because
but
they're purposely excluding people or acting bad or
So
calling
let's
out
just
people
say-
on social media.
Let's do it in legal, for cause or without cause.
There you
You
go.
could do either way, and you can decide whether it's cause or without cause.
But the time to do that is when the person is up for renewal, which was in October.
no, because we have the authority at any point in time, right?
We actually
We
should.
do. We still have the authority. So again,
Yeah.
50 years, this has never been an issue, so why not?
My understanding, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe, but yeah, the council has the ability to terminate somebody's position in these committees. Just as like we have the ability to appoint, we have the ability to terminate and fire.
It's still good governance to decide whether you should require residency or
No,
not.
I don't-
mean,
So let's get
there's
into
a reason all these other
Yeah.
cities have residency requirements.
I'm
And how do they
okay, I
define
mean,
residency?
Well,
What's the definition? How do you audit residency?
Some people do it, I mean, I think.
Where they
it's
lay their
in
How long
the
have you lived
voting
in that
record.
city?
So, I mean,
How long have you lived in that city? Some of them actually have required that, how long have you owned your property? So they slip that. in.
Okay,
But-
so,
but again-
Just
okay,
owning property.
so,
It's-
we have a minor on the Parks and Recreation Committee. He does not own property. Same way when I was in college, I lived away, I came home every May and voted.
Are they chair? Can they be
Why
chair?
don't think that you
I'm
have
just
to-
saying.
I mean,
No.
why-
Can they?
Right now-
Now we're
right-
getting into chair versus member.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
now we need to keep it.
No.
yeah, at least get to a
They
certain
have
level.
secretary, they've got all the, they're supposed to have
They all-
all the.
Well, I
From
mean,
what I remember, League City's requirements is they require you
Is it
to
on
turn in your proof of voter registration.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, if there's, so let me, I'll jump in on the residency. I have a really difficult time where we set up and it could be considered arbitrary definitions of what we think because you can carve them out. It's a decision that government is putting on to restrict, and I'm just naturally against things like that. If there's a residency test, which goes to the decision of the person involved, it's where they're registered to vote. They make a decision as to which community they want to be in by where they register to vote. That's not a decision by any of us here or anything like that. But if it's something where if you choose to be in somebody else's community by where you vote, then that to me would be at least the only one I'm comfortable with to say it's their decision.
What's the rule on like homesteading? Like, because like people who own more than one property have to choose one to homestead, right?
Right.
Where
Correct.
they're living.
Correct.
What's the rule? How do they define that? What's the rule for that?
You elect it.
I don't know.
My brother has a
But
house, he can
No,
elect.
I know a
But-
person says which
Yeah.
one,
But let
don't
me,
they just choose?
I'll give you an
Like, even if you're
example
not
for
living
something which would concern me there. Generally, people put homesteads on their most valuable property to have the largest tax deduction consequence. So it's a financial decision
You don't have to
if you
live
have
there.
multiple ones rather than what community I'm in, right?
So
I think you.
we have a committee member for sure that's not registered to vote.
In the state of Texas.
The minor.
Right,
Minor.
Yeah.
so if that's ours, and then if someone comes in, we have to
With
say,
the
show me
exception
your
of
voter
minor?
registration
And
card.
maybe accept minors.
I mean, or, we gave,
It's-
Tim Clark
yes,
read
it's
something
not-
tonight,
it's
did
not
she
gonna be
move here and
anything
immediately join a committee, or did she have to change her registration?
I don't know.
We could, I mean, we can make
No,
it.
but I'm just
that's fine,
saying,
but
I'm just saying is
gotta
if
be
there's
careful.
going to be a residency test, I believe I would rather put the onus on the person who, the decisions that they make about how they lodge their vote as to which community they're in versus us telling them whether or not they're a resident.
And we just say.
Based off of-
With the exclusion of non-minors. who-
Because you're always gonna have
I think minors are
people,
excluded from this whole.
yeah,
Okay.
correct. Because I mean, I would hate to say, people say, well, I'm a property owner and they're not. How come they have rights I don't have? Because we're trying to do an arbitrary thing and I don't think we'll ever get to something that would be satisfactory. I really do, personal opinion. But a voting thing is where somebody, if they have multiple properties, they have the ability to choose where they want to lodge their vote to represent who's up on council.
Not everybody votes.
But you can audit that.
Well, I mean,
but
if you want
That's
to,
what they
you know,
choose
maybe,
not to register.
Well, homestead is where they live.
you know, if you want to be a part of an ex officio, if you want to be an officio person, we say, you got to be able to vote.
Well,
I actually like that.
Be
idea.
a resident of 5 years.
We have a lot of extra things to do when, I don't think it's necessary to do it. At the end of the day, we have final say on who goes on the committees.
I do too.
I don't think there needs to be all this extra, you need to have black and white residency, this, that, and the other. You can't chair, you can only be a volunteer, you can only do this. That less government's better, okay? I think we just need to leave it to where city council, we obviously get elected into these positions, we are obviously residents of this city, and we get to choose who gets to go onto these committees. If we think that person is the best person for that position, then so be it. But I don't think we need to start restricting ourselves from doing things and restricting people from being able to be on these boards and committees. If they want to volunteer, by all means, please volunteer. I want you on these committees. And if you're the best person for it, then so be it. You'll be on there. Because right now we're having an entire meeting. I showed up a little bit late tonight, but we've been here for 2.5 hours. And we've barely addressed the fact that we have probably 50% of our boards and committees are people that are either vacant or no longer even technically on these committees. I think we need to address that issue.
Which we have.
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying, but I think we need to address that issue more so than let's infight about who's a chair, who's a resident, who's this, that, and the other. We make the decision on who's on these committees and boards. People can apply when they want to apply, and if we think that they're the right person, they're the right one on there. And I don't think that we need to further restrict ourselves from who we can have on these committees. If they want to be on there, put in an application, we'll evaluate it. That's my 2 cents. Some people might not like it, some people may, but I think that that's the way like I said, we've been elected to do a job, and I think that that's what we should
So
do.
you're in the The WTF group.
I wouldn't say WTF,
I'm trying to put some humor.
I'm very open-minded.
I agree, no,
I
I'm just
hear
saying.
the WTF argument though, because we do control
Yep.
who is and is not on committees.
Like I said, I'm very open-minded. The last meeting that we had regarding this issue, I brought up some exceptions. Like if we're gonna change it, then that's a decision that we need to make, and I think we need to have exceptions. But I don't think we need to do that.
No offense, I didn't like that
Right.
because it was just even more rules.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like I can come up with solutions to problems, but I don't think that this is a problem we actually have. I think it's a
So,
manufactured
I like
problem.
the committee advisory board that Maria brought up, where if there is a problem with a member of a committee, then that goes to that board, that same 3-person board, so they can meet in the back private room, have a conversation about what activities happened, pull the person in there, address an issue, not issue, whether it be, hey, you moved, what the heck are you doing still here? Or, hey, you did something egregious to a citizen. And so we address it that way instead of having to, this doesn't solve all
Can I
the
ask a
future
dumb
problems.
question?
I think we've got it right here in the charter. I mean,
Okay.
But it
why
doesn't
don't we
define
go by the
precedent.
charter?
Was there a morality
Every
clause
day.
in there?
No morality clause,
I think that
anything
goes
else.
for a
But I
lot
mean,
of folks.
here, qualification of members, okay?
Members
is
of,
The mayor and each city council member, you can just say, and boards and commissions, you know, is a resident of the city of Nassau Bay, a qualified voter in the state of Texas, and shall have been a resident of the city of Nassau Bay for at least a year immediately preceding their appointment, election or appointment.
But you're
I
saying
mean,
that's for council right now, mayor and
This is kind of
council.
like what
You
they.
can't amend the charter.
No, what I'm
without-
saying,
No.
right.
No,
Yeah.
but she's just using that as an
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
example.
using
saying.
it as an
Yeah, correct.
example.
Correct.
Is we
Correct.
can't,
Or how to
this is
define
an
it.
umbrella.
You're
This is an umbrella for
in
city
the, there should be a
operations.
residency test. This is, there's the WTF and the why the hell not? You know, it's,
I
right?
don't know why the whole residency thing is so complicated. I'm like, you either live in the city or you don't. Like, if you look at the qualifications for appointment to a league city board or commission, right? It says the city of League City has eligibility requirements that must be met by all members of city boards and commissions. In addition to any specific qualifications for, they have an ordinance that applies, which is 2-383. In addition to any specific qualifications for service on a particular board, a board member must be a resident within League City for at least 6 months.
They don't exclude any board.
Be a registered voter of the city. Shall not be delinquent in the payment of any monies owed.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. Shall not have any pending claims against the city. Shall not be related to any city council member. Shall have no conflict of interest or appearance of impropriety where the position could result in personal advantage or monetary benefit. You know, shall not have been convicted of a felony or a crime involving World War II.
Yeah, that one has.
Maintain an open mind to all issues under consideration, have the ability to listen, learn, and discuss issues. I mean, this is like, basically, 12 things.
And the only thing I would say there is League City is a 120,000 person
We are
city.
not League City.
And we are a 5,000 person city. You know, so from a standpoint of, the pool of people, right?
So we're not gonna have standards.
You know,
No, I mean, in looking at Taylor Lake, Clear Lake Shores, Keenan, Seabrook, all these other little cities, I mean, I haven't looked at Frenchman, but there are a lot of people there. But everyone has the same thing, why would you want someone outside the city to be leading a committee in your city?
you're looking at chair.
So you're just on chair.
You're on the chair.
Yeah. Well,
Just to
leading a
be,
committee. I think if we can get people outside of our city volunteering for the peninsula cleanup and some of these things that we need tons of people on,
yeah,
then
but the converse of that is whether it's a member, a position or the chair, they must be a resident.
appointed by the city.
Yeah.
I mean, I would
Can I
hope you
ask
guys
something?
would know them.
If these, and Maria, I'm kind of looking at you here, and I'm not sure you know the answer. I want to just ask a dumb question. If these are potentially unpaid employees of the city, where does our HR department have a role here in regards to complaints or anything like that? How would a complaint?
I would think so.
How would a complaint come in? I don't know, anybody who's an appointed position. I just don't, I don't even know.
I mean, they're a representation of the city.
I mean, the city does background checks.
Yeah.
That would go,
I've never, ever done that in the history of this city.
What are you talking about? A complaint about who?
Anybody.
On the official or.
A council person or.
Well, that's happened before.
Right? I don't know of anybody where HR's been involved with
Or the city.
a committee or council.
No, well, council, I think there was a complaint lodged in the past,
The
but.
mayor or a council member.
Yeah, okay.
I think a volunteer of the city would be brought up with you guys,
Mm-hmm.
council members, because you're responsible for it.
Yeah, well, that's
We
what.
appoint 'em, so.
Yep. What do we have consensus? I'm hearing maybe 3 to say,
I don't think we can do anything.
don't need to do anything, and
Because
one
we still-
definitively, and me kind of saying, if it's a voting, maybe,
That's how you would define residency.
yeah, where they vote. That way, you know,
I just think it should be where they lay their head at night.
Then how do you audit that? I mean, are we gonna have people spying on folks to be like, they're only here 6 days? I mean, you know, that's kind of, seems silly to
They
me.
fill out an application.
and again, there's people who have multiple
An
homes,
application.
right? They may not spend 100% of their time in Nassau. I mean, I'll use me as an example. We have a place in Antietam. We go sometimes for 3 months. Does that mean
You're
I'm not a
still
resident?
of Nassau Bay.
But here's the
Well,
thing is,
why?
anyone,
Why?
anyone that's
Because I'm a
going-
property owner, or because I have my head?
Anybody who moves out
I'm
of
just
the,
saying.
most people who move out of the community are going to resign their position, number one. Majority of the people.
Majority of-
Secondly, anyone who is not gonna be able to fulfill their commitment on a committee are going to resign because they can't fulfill their duties. So majority of the people are going to do those things because it's the right thing to do. Very few people will stay on
But there's
the
been
committee.
people who have argued. I mean, I'm just gonna say, we're talking it through, which I think is
Yeah.
real healthy. There's an argument, people say, I own a property in Nassau Bay. I wanna make sure that and I wanna be involved to make sure that the proper beautification, the proper maintenance,
Attend
and
the
the property,
committees.
things like that. I'm just saying, because I am a property owner, and I have rights as a property owner, just as I have a home in Nassau Bay.
Attend the
And I think
committees.
that is respectable,
Right.
but if I
Involved.
live in my
And it-
home within the city limits and I drive the city streets every single day and I maintain my lawn and I live there day in and day out, and that person is renting that place out,
Mhm.
I want to be on that committee and I want to serve my community day in and day out on that committee, that I should be able to
Preferential
do that
treatment,
preferential treatment over that person that has a rental property.
So now we have preferential treatment?
Well, no, but I think I should be able to,
We should look at
over
the
someone that
residents
has
of
a
the
rental
community
property.
to be on a
Over a
committee.
rental,
Right,
over
before
someone that has an
someone
investment
who's
property.
not.
So that's what the property owner then says, is like, there are
Registered
people who
vote,
don't
yeah.
own property who just rent here at like the Sapphire or whatever.
STRs.
That,
So those people
or
that have
STRs that,
preferential treatment?
that are given more rights as a renter than I do as a property owner.
And they can still volunteer,
Attend the
they can
meetings.
still vote, they can
I
still.
mean, yeah, I mean,
Right.
again, it's a policy thing as to what is there, but the same thing could be for the other way around.
What you're saying though, basically, is that somebody who does have an STR in Nassau Bay, who does not live in their home but rents it out for a short term, they can be on committees. right?
Say that again?
Can somebody who owns an STR in Nassau Bay be on a committee?
Right, well, I mean, right now, yes,
Yeah.
because they're a property owner.
Right, and so, yeah, so I think that is.
Unless
where we're trying to
they're,
figure
you
it
know,
out.
and there's
Is somebody-
multiple types of, but let's just take the extreme, which is they don't have their head in that bed.
So is your vested interest to turn a profit, or is your vested interest to make the community in which you live better?
Well, when we put
By
that
being
in,
on the committee, I guess.
I look at it as who maintains, I have a vested interest to make sure people maintain their property.
Yeah, because you live here,
'Cause,
right, and this is
yeah,
the community in which you
my
live. and
my
you want to
experience
live.
is property owners tend to their property more than a renter does.
Yep. They're responsible for the maintenance.
And that's where people
Yeah.
are saying we are giving stronger rights to renters than property owners.
Because they live
Because, again, it's just not, that's why I say when I'm looking at these things, I can make arguments like that where you know, it's very tough. Having somebody decide where they vote. is their decision. They're deciding what community they want to be in, not some body here that says that. I mean, you know, to me, if there's any type of residency test, it would be that one. Because then we're not controlling that. We're not trying to be arbitrary to one person or even have the appearance of that. That person controls it, not anybody up here.
So if we don't have a residency restriction, but yet that decision has been
That
made.
is a residency restriction.
Okay, right, but we're not gonna put it in writing, but yet they made that decision, but yet what is, are y'all going to decide? How are you gonna be alerted?
I mean, right now, I look at it, there's
no way of monitoring.
there's a majority here right now to say we couldn't say, you know, Dick Greg, write it.
I think, can I just say this?
Yeah, go, no, this is what,
So,
staff's a big part.
I don't think that it requires changing the ordinance. I think it comes down to a basic policy for committees as to whether you require them to live here for 6 months, because there's really not a way to verify, like you said, where they live. And the other thing you would do is, that's just a policy for the boards. So all of you would name the advisory boards would have policies for what the council wishes them to have. And then you would also have like policies and procedures for them. You would also have an ethics and code of conduct that they would all have to abide by. I think it would help just address some of those issues.
That would be my next effort. I'd say that there should be some decorum and ethics held by people that are
We had to do
representing
it for the
city
charter review.
in committees.
We had to
Did
sign
you?
an oath, yeah,
Did you?
yes.
What did you have to help me
We had to
understand?
give them, we had to do an oath that we would do the best for the city. We, you know, it was spelled out, Zena spelled it out, we signed it. I don't have a copy of mine, but she has all.
But it was a code of conduct, sort of?
Yes.
I mean, it covered that.
It says they shall be independent, impartial, responsible to citizens of the city.
Yeah.
Not have a financial interest, shall not engage in any business transactions or professional activity, or incur any obligations that conflict with the proper discharge of their duties for the city in the public interest.
We don't take that same oath though. That's not the same oath we
No,
take.
this would just
But
be.
shouldn't we have
This
to
is
take that too?
We can, so there's
Since I
nothing.
grandfathered into what we did, so I couldn't have a financial.
Actually, believe it or not, the state
I'm
of
just
Texas does not say that's a requirement for you to be elected by a majority of people.
Okay.
They say majority, if a majority of people want, and they, you know, if they want to elect a scoundrel, they can elect a scoundrel.
Fair.
Just,
Fair. Okay. I think, I like Maria's statement she made earlier still of some kind of committee oversight board where they review all the applications, they review all the things, they make recommendations to council, like this thing says, but they also have to address issues. So if there's an issue with someone not meeting a supposed code of conduct that they have or have not agreed to, then that goes to that oversight committee to say, hey, we need to address this. What are we gonna do to either correct it
Or
one
to
way or
HR.
the other?
Or
We'll
to
bring HR into the oversight committee if that's necessary. So I feel like we're trying to talk about things and masking it with something else. And I think if you had a committee that was giving, or a board or something, you know, something smaller that was giving oversight to the committees, they could go sit in a room, address the real issues, and then come out here and recommend a solution for something that would save us a lot of trouble in the future.
Who appoints that committee oversight board?
And who is the committee comprised of?
So this says the mayor, mayor pro tem, and past mayor pro tem. I don't think that would work as well for us. But
What does, this is it?
this is, whatever city this is an example from.
Oh.
Oh, they have an advisory board?
Yeah, for oversight for the committees. They don't, the council doesn't, whatever city this is, the council doesn't just go through Pearland, right? They have a subcommittee, so it's the 3 people that review all the applications and then make a recommendation to council. It's not a, let's hash everything out, the issues that we're trying to talk about without saying them. They have a board that deals with this. And to me, that would also have to be if there needs to be a correction in something, not just a recommendation for who gets appointed, but who gets
That
other
committee
actions.
usually just kind of vets
Ad hoc.
applications for qualifications to narrow down what council's looking for those committees. Primarily like the planning and zoning, the regulatory,
Gas area
boards.
management district, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
As far as addressing issues, not necessarily. That's more of a council.
Okay, so
That
we
committee
have,
would receive,
We're such a small.
so could we go to
That's a
executive,
small city.
okay, maybe that's not it, but could we go to executive session in a council meeting and address an issue in a committee?
it would have to be one of the regulatory.
So we couldn't.
Does this raise to that if it's an ethical issue?
Only for the regulatory, committees.
Not the advisory boards?
As far as I know, it does not, but that's a question for.
We should ask, yeah,
I think that's a fair statement.
because I don't really think what we're doing is what we want to be doing.
I agree.
I still think it's probably good governance for the advisory boards, but, you know, and I think, you know, regulations and ordinances and governance sometimes does come from scenarios that arise. And so pretending like I'm targeting someone in particular is unfair. I was made aware of a situation and I thought, I don't approve of somebody that is not a resident of the city chairing a board or a committee, a civilian committee, when there are other people who have applied to serve on that committee. Another reason being, that person can serve on a committee in the city where they live, and those interests would begin possibly to compete with Nassau Bay's interests. It's just good governance. You approach issues when you see them. You know, so sometimes governance is reactive, and I think that needs to be acknowledged. I don't think that, you know, I mean, sometimes you figure out that there's an issue and you think, okay, well, this probably should be addressed. I mean.
So we could add governance.
Or not.
But I don't think we're addressing what we,
I will say, kind of what you said, it's an issue, right? We are addressing a single issue. There was something that sparked this entire conversation, this entire meeting, these past few things that we've talked about. But I think we haven't addressed that specific issue. Like, we are trying to revamp the entire system. Over 50 years, we've had, from what I'm hearing, is one issue sparked all of this. So what are we doing to
Because it's
address
never
it?
happened.
Well, I know that, but I'm saying
It's
it's
never
not
happened
something
because
that's
no one-
systemic through our entire system. It's not something that's every single committee is running into this issue. 50 years, we've run into this one time. Like, why don't we address that one specific issue? Address that in whatever means we have to, how we can. Whether that's in an agenda item, whether that's we remove that individual, whether that's we reevaluate that specific person's performance, that person's qualifications, and either say, yep, we want to keep that person on the board, or hey, we want to have that person removed. So I think we need to address that one specific issue, and I don't think having to redo all of this. I mean, we've had so many different ideas about chairs, regulator head, where you vote at. Like, we're not going to come to a consensus on that. So I think revamping the entire system is not ideal here. We already have enough issues, like I said, with filling our boards and commissions. Let's just address that one specific issue, and we know what that one specific issue is, and then we can move on. and then we will have a finality to that single situation, and then we can address the real needs of these boards and commissions and not try to mask what our desires are. Let's just address it and then move on. That's what I would say to do. Anybody have any?
And how do we address it?
No.
That's my
That's
what's the
to
next
me.
step?
So let's just, so say you have an issue, and citizens want to progress that issue. What's the what do they do?
They have our emails. They can email us.
So it just goes to council?
I'm just gonna say about emails. Emails don't always get responded to or acknowledged or whatever. So, I mean, do we all come up and say our 3 minutes about how we've been personally victimized by Michelle Roller? Or like, is there a review committee? Do we take it to HR? Do we take it to whatever? If that's what we're talking
and
about.
how many
I
times do we have to
still,
do
for the
it?
record, think
I mean,
that
honestly,
residency is a requirement.
how many times?
But if we move on to Michelle,
the question
let's
is
move on to Michelle.
if there's a formal way rather than an informal way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, quite honestly, I mean, I've sent an email to everybody. I mean, thank you, Bill, for the call and offering for me to come in. I know Ashley has reached out and said, you know, let's meet at some point. And Paula did email me back immediately, but there's been no other outreach from any other council member that I've emailed, aside from Sarah as well, but from anybody else to address or trying to resolve any of the complaints that I had, and no confirmation of, hey, go this avenue to HR, or go speak to this person, or whatever else to resolve this issue that was put in writing, public, that I made public as well, and nothing else. So again, at what avenue, at what point is enough, and what avenue do I have to go to be heard? If we're going to talk about it, I mean, we're talking about resolving the issue and talking about the issue. So
There has to be a process. We have to head on.
So what is that process?
That's
That's what this
there is
2.5 hours should
And there
be.
is no process, and I've tried what I felt. I've not
I
said
don't know if we need another
No,
workshop.
I mean, to be fair, I think this is deflection. I do think that we're moving off of a point that I think it's a valid point. I think residency is a super valid point.
I do too.
But like, if we want to move on to another point, then that's fine.
No, what you're hearing is that there's a majority that don't agree with you.
Yeah, no,
I
listen, I
just-
heard that 2 hours
I
ago.
saw it.
I know. That's
So
the
it's
point.
so so the question is it's time to move on, right?
Okay.
And so here, and the reason for that is somebody said, hey, we're really talking about a different issue than residency. We're trying to resolve the issue by using that. And that's how we got to where we're at.
Okay, so if they're two different things, that's fine. But I still want to understand what the process is.
In the process, I mean, I can't walk into a room, which you heard and Sarah heard. I can't walk into the same room without being talked to in a certain manner, in a certain way. But both of you were in the room and experienced it without any conversation or whatever.
So
Should we go back?
No. Again, when that happens a few years ago, tomorrow, today, we should talk to people and say, we just don't have I think we need a process to say, guess what, your behavior isn't helpful. Whose job is that?
Usually it's HR.
It would be.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
So-
it's our
so
job
do we-
to appoint and remove people from these committees.
Right.
So
So
I think
then
it's something that
do we
But-
do that
but-
here or do we do that back there?
Yeah, but
That's
I guess where I'm at
We
is,
have to ask the Greg.
Greg,
Yeah.
quite honestly, the question is whether, and there's people who are skilled in this to say, does it raise to the level of needing action? Or is it, and I'm just gonna talk in extremes, or is it the personal opinion that somebody doesn't like somebody and they just want them off?
Listen.
Right?
this is
I mean,
my-
just,
It's
I mean, that's.
Well, but when you have members of the committee being forced out of a room or having to leave the room in tears, a committee meeting, and just being assaulted verbally in a meeting with lots of witnesses and everyone's going like, what the hell's going on?
Oh, it's yours.
People need to be able to talk to somebody. And if the council people are responsible for appointing people onto committees, they need to be responsible for removing them or talking with them about issues that come up.
I think we need a process.
But if we don't know that process, I understand, you may
Yeah.
not have known about that.
Yeah.
But-
Or there's always, is what I'd say, in any type of thing, an altercation, there's two sides to the coin.
Of course.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
And, again, it's whether things raise to a level of, where action needs to be taken. Because, again, there's, I've been told I'm a criminal, right? So, does that mean action should be taken against those people? Right?
We're hoping that we're not standards.
So, but I mean, that wasn't at the time. But I mean, again, some of that's part of the business we're in, right? You gotta have thick skin.
I think
Right.
the problem I have with the situation is that when individuals pick on certain other individuals, okay, this has always been my issue. If you see someone bullying someone else, berating them, bullying them, being horrible about them on social media or whatever, and that person is in a position that represents the city, okay? Shouldn't you stand up for your community members and say, enough is enough?
Yes.
Because it might not have happened to you, or you, or you, or you, but people are getting picked on and have been accused of things that are completely untrue, and have been falsely accused of things, and it's just, you have to have a threshold where you say, I'm not gonna put up with this behavior anymore, and it might not have happened to you, but it's happening to other people. And you
But I'd
have
also-
to stand up for people.
But I'd also say that, if you listen to people, because I agree with that, because I think there's some things that are inappropriate, but I also know there's other things that have been appropriate to her. So I sometimes wonder as I just wish people would settle down.
Enough is enough.
So, I do think.
Be nice to each
Yeah,
other.
be nice to each other, and you're asking us to get involved
Okay,
between
when it's not
two
prompted.
groups that hate each other.
I walk into a room and it's not prompted, I volunteered for the moon tree, and it's just all over.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to be talking about this?
I don't know.
It's
I
about-
don't feel comfortable
Yeah.
having this
Can we turn
discussion
that off?
being
Yeah,
video.
yeah, I can
This
turn
is
it off.
not,
Turn it off.
this is not
Yeah.
the basis for the workshop.
Because with an oversight, some kind of oversight
Let
group
me